fine. Yeah. Like you just said, it's like, I think we're live now. Cool.
Cool. Fucking
Awesome.
live, man. Damn, it
Yes.
takes.
Thank you for being here. Well, I just want to start out by saying that I had a weird fucking night after you and I talked because
It happens to most people that talk to me.
yeah, I became super existential because I just wonder where lots of stuff is going these days. I was on Instagram, right? I get a lot of weird messages, but I this guy I didn't know literally sent me a picture of his dick.
Wow. Are
And
you fucking
I've been
kidding
with
me?
my husband for like 11 years and I think I kind of missed the whole sexting era or whatever. It got like really it got into to be a big thing after, I like when I was past that. And I was just like I felt like a little girl, like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is this?" And it was I don't know, it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Dude, that's fucked up. That I've never understood that right there. I don't understand how strangers can just send another stranger that, any part of their just pics of any part of their anatomy and say, "Hey, look, enjoy this."
Well,
I probably.
I don't even know the guy. I mean, it's not like we've ever even had a conversation. So it was really bizarre. I kind of sat there and was like, what's going on? Like, where's all of this headed if I'm getting random pictures of like a penis?
It's not. It's headed to a not so good place. I can tell you that much. I mean, wow. What did your husband say, or did you tell him?
Oh yeah, I was right there. I remember I was on Instagram just browsing and then I got the message and I looked at it and I was like, I think somebody just sent me a picture of their dick. And I looked at it and I showed him and he's like, "Yep, that's that's that." He's basically, him and I kind of live on with the mindset of like there are weirdos out there, like we you
Yeah.
and I were talking about last night. I
Hmm.
blocked the guy because
Good.
I don't want any more pictures like that, but it's super inappropriate, but what can you do?
If you're gonna swim in the ocean, you're gonna have some weird shark. You're gonna have some weird fish out there. Sorry, this is Dylan. Dylan just showed up.
Dylan.
Say hi, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan. Is he a Boston Terrier?
Let me ask him. Are you a Boston? Oh, okay. Are you a Boston Terrier?
I think that was a yes.
Yeah, that's a yes. Yeah, I think he wants attention right now. He's the newest. Okay, there you go. Okay, you give
Wow,
Daddy kisses.
is this his podcast debut?
I think it is. He's like that. He likes to just put himself in weird places all the time. At least he's not sending dick pics.
Yes, that was seriously other than the doggy world. Yeah, so I became super existential and then I drank a bunch of tea that was had a lot of herbs in it that was, like valerian, passion flower, and I'm a super sensitive person when it comes to introducing anything I don't normally consume into my body. And so I
Wow.
got into like this really deep meditative state, but when you get into a deep meditative state and you're anxious at the same time because your mind is trying to slow down but it's still racing but your body's relaxed. Yeah, I was kind of in that
Yeah.
weird space last night trying to fall asleep and oh man. So,
That
good morning.
good morning sounds like a horrible, horrible experience. I'm sorry about that. Sorry that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it made me think more than anything. I can kind of look at it for what it is and not really carry it with me like, oh, it didn't traumatize me or anything, but it just people are struggling out there. I have a lot of compassion for even weird situations like that. Like I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, where is he at in his life to be sending a stranger um, a picture like that?
It's also an indictment against, well, I guess, yeah, against where we are as a society where that's okay to do. I mean, I haven't read anything in history about people sketching out their parts of anatomy and sending it via courier to other people, in the past 200 years. I mean, or even taking Polaroids of themselves. So the fact that people are really, really comfortable with doing that now, it's a scary thing, whether they want attention or whether they believe or feel that there's others out there that would enjoy something like that. I mean, 15 years ago, that would end up in that end up as a case, and
Mhm.
and it's sad that it doesn't anymore. Now people just blow it off, and I mean, I'm not saying that you're just blowing it off. Pardon the pun, by the way. I should bad choice of words.
No, that was
But
good. I didn't even
um anyways, but it's sad, I was off of social media for a few years, completely off the grid, and when I came back, it was this neurotic place, and it seems to have really ingrained itself into people's psychosis, and there's this, I don't know, it
You and
the
I have talked about how people start to identify with their social presence and whatever that means to them, whatever type of page that they're, trying to grow. And I mean, there's like, I see all these, like, there's like porn pages and stuff and all this. I mean, there's just a lot of information out there that was not out there a couple of years ago. And it's just growing like complete wildfire.
and it's accepted.
Hmm.
It's accepted. I mean, I talk to my kids about that all the time. We just got them iPads, and we talk to them and say, guys, look, hope you understand the internet is a dangerous place. Yeah, there's information out there that can be very valuable, but at the same time, you've got idiots that take advantage of that, and they want to prey on the innocent, and they're just putting stuff out there. And
Hmm.
and it's up to you to be able to identify, so they may not understand that, but the important part is that we understand that and to educate them, and to really, for us to come to terms with, this is, we talked about this last night, this is the world we live in now. I can't raise my kids thinking this is the 90s where I grew up. This is, God forbid, my kids were to walk up to me one day and say, hey dad, look what somebody sent me. I mean, I'd probably lose my shit.
Yeah. No,
um
I hear stories about kids nowadays at like school dances and stuff. Even a couple of years ago, one of my uncles was telling me about his son and how they're, he's going to school dances and the girls are like lifting up their dresses and their thongs are all out and they're just twerking and like straight up with
no,
their ass out, like
no.
straight up with like, I mean, in the middle of a dance floor with hundreds of people around. And I just, people when I was in school, we dance provocative. I like dancing. Dancing's fun, but I don't ever remember, people pulling up their dresses and basically dancing with nothing on their lower half. I mean, that's just wasn't happening when I was in school.
Having sex to a beat on your feet.
What's that?
Having sex to a beat on your feet.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't think you could have said it better than that.
That's it. And I always encourage my kids to sing and dance whenever they feel like it. It is the utmost expression of happiness and joy, and it's a way that we have been created biologically to bring all of our senses and systems together into a collective expression. And to think that they are going to be in dances and say, hey, dad and mom said that whenever we feel happy to dance, but whoa, this girl here is half naked and she's throwing her stuff at me. Okay, great. That's all. I mean, it's there's these things that we have to deal with, that whether social media or society has given the okay to, that us individuals, who I like to say still have some type of class to us and self-respect, we're going to be, or like, hey, wait a second, how do we arm ourselves against this? How do we, I guess you can't, I guess you have to be able to deal with them in a certain way, but you have to really have a sense of self-respect for yourself to understand that that is not acceptable, that just because that's in right now doesn't mean that it's okay, you know
No,
um and
I agree with you. What the challenge is for me is that I have so much. I wouldn't even say this is a challenge actually, but I have so much empathy for people in pain that it's really easy to judge, for example, a girl that's pulling up her skirt at a dance and shaking her ass. Like it's easy to judge that because it's foreign, especially if we wouldn't do something like that. But then I always go one step further of like, why does this person feel like she should be doing that? What's happening in her own life? I watched a movie one time about I forget what it was called, but it was about a serial killer and he did awful things. I talked about this in one of my YouTube videos. He did awful things to women. But he explained his whole childhood about how his father was awful, about how he always loved to save animals, and he brought this bird home to save, and his father just did horrible things to him, and he saw the bird in pain and he wanted to bring it home to save it and rehabilitate it. However, he knew his dad, when he found the bird, his dad was going to kill it. So this character ended up killing the bird because he thought that he was saving it from his dad. And it was very deep rooted. And so when he grew up, he ended up killing women that he thought were in so much pain because he felt like he was saving them. Is that right? Absolutely not. I mean, nothing like that is justified. But then you start to understand where the pain and these terrible, not even terrible, but just unusual behaviors are coming from. And then it's like, I just always feel a desire to help. But I mean, that's why I run myself into the ground, because I just want to help everybody.
You've got to help yourself first. And if you're running yourself into the ground, you're not helping yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to keep your own light lit. This story about this, I know this movie. I don't know I can't remember what movie that is,
It's
but
with Jennifer Lopez.
okay.
She goes into that meditative, they put that device on her and she visits people in their dreams.
The Cell,
The cell,
the
yes.
Cell. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me this guy really justified himself, and that was his reality. And we talked about this last night, defining your own reality and how it isn't necessarily a universal reality. Sometimes it's a convenient reality. Um, we define things in our lives or our actions to be convenient to our situations or to our reality, and that's where a lot of the miscommunication is. And I think, uh, there are kids now. There are kids nowadays that I know, and I do volunteer work, and it's nothing that I really like to put out there, but I do volunteer work, and I like to help a lot of the younger kids. And I hear these stories, and I hear these kids tell me things, and I think to myself, "Oh my God, wow, your parents or whoever's raising you is not on this. I mean, doesn't it does is not giving you the time to explain these things to you. This is not what you're telling me is not real. I mean, this is wow, this is what you believe what's going to happen 20, 30 years from now
Hmm.
if you hold on to these beliefs. And you're going to have a lot of friction with society if you continue to do that, and it's going to put these kids in a very bad place. I'm not saying all kids, but you've got these kids here and there, sporadically, that I don't know, just they don't have that influence or that presence in their lives that says, no, this is, let me explain this to you, or this is not what it is.
I think
And
it comes down to, I mean, I'm not a parent yet, so I always feel, well, one, I feel hesitant to even speak on this because there is that community of people out there that will shame you, if you're not a parent, you don't know what you're talking about. But I feel like I've read enough, enough psychology to have a general grasp on some concepts. And I feel like what I see a lot is parents just limiting free expression of children. I mean,
yes,
we were in Denver about a month ago, and there was a lady sitting next to us with her daughter, and it was beautiful to witness. She was just radiating this grounded energy, and her little 5-year old, we ended up talking to her, but her little 5-year-old was asking, "Mom, what does the open and closed sign mean? Mom, what does this mean?" And she was taking this beautiful way, or she had this beautiful way and slow way of asking her daughter questions to help her come to the answer and giving her information. And she was just mindful with her daughter. And it was so powerful that my husband and I, we looked and we noticed it, and we're like, wow, this is, we have a lack of this. Everybody's in a rush, everybody's stressed. No one, not a lot of us are mindful a lot of the time. And I feel like that just passes on years and years and years of stress to children when they're developing.
they are. You're right. I mean, they, it's I can tell you, that, I would lie if I said that I've not experienced those moments before when I'm stressed, I'm rushed, I've got to get the kids to school, I've got to get to work, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to get them to bed, and they're asking me a million questions, and I'm being shotgunned with different questions from them, and I'm like, okay, this just, whatever. But like you said about being mindful, there's an intent to be mindful. There is an intent to hold those alarms in my subconscious. It says, hey, your son is asking you this. Stop what you're doing, answer him. Take your time. This is important, and it doesn't matter if it's, why is this bird blue or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But you have to really shut down your thoughts, shut down your ego, and give them that presence, give them that awareness in that moment, because what is important to them, may not be, I don't know, maybe intellectually important to you at at that time. When the kid's asking you, why do dogs throw up and either vomit afterwards, and
Well,
to take the time to them.
kids don't really know what it's like to have to rush. That's learned, right? I mean, in a kid's world, you look back at, the kid like state I mean, I look at back at it for me, it's like, it's such a simple life. You're playing with your toys, you have to go to school, and you want snacks, and it's such a simple life. So it's the adult stresses that we have, they don't understand, and there's lack of explanation, I think, a lot. I mean, I just, when I have kids, I hope, and what I plan to do is simply, like you and I were talking about last night,
Talk. Yeah.
talk about whatever. And I asked that lady, I said, what do you do, to balance yourself when you're stressed out, or how do you handle communicating with your daughter? Because she was so mindful in that experience, and she goes, I don't always get it right, but we acknowledge that. And when I feel like I didn't carry myself in the way that I wanted to, or I didn't handle a situation with her, I tell her. I
Oh,
tell
that's
her that
great.
I did not do the best that I could have, but this happens and it's life, and we move forward and we talk about it, and then we let it go. And I'm like, wow, how powerful is that?
It is. We talked about this last night, being honest with kids, being honest, you know, um, I think you mentioned somebody you knew who kind of just puts their hands over their ears and doesn't want to know anything or refuses to really explain. I can't tell you how many times I've heard parents tell their kids, "Oh, you're not ready to hear that," or "You wouldn't understand." Kids have an incredible mind, and they understand a lot more. Kids are the most awakened beings that walk this earth. They really are. They get it. Like you said, they play, they're curious, and they want snacks.
Well, and I tell you,
We're
it's dangerous when parents, in my opinion, make the statement of a kid won't understand, or, they're not going to get it, because like you said, they understand way more than I believe we think that they do. And then the problem with that is, if you don't tell them, what do? They go and sit alone, and then they make up stories in their imagination about the truth. So I see this a lot with, you know, kids going through a family of divorce. When the parents don't talk to them about it, they make up their own narratives in their head about what's happening. Like, why is mom and dad splitting up? And if they don't get communication from their parents, they make up why, and that is usually way worse, because kids have an amazing imagination.
and they believe it's their fault.
Hmm.
They take the blame for it. Clifford Odets, the writer Clifford Odets, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but he he commented on kids, and he said, and probably I probably have this mixed up, but the gist of it is, by the time a child is 5 years old, they would have experienced the full spectrum of the human experience, emotion, thought pattern, everything from sadness to gladness to joy to everything. So they understand. It's how we choose to communicate it to them.
Wow, by
Sometimes
5 years old, they've already experienced the full spectrum of emotion.
everything. everything. And to say, you know, daddy had a bad day because this and this happens, they understand that. They'll even tell you. I remember my kids. I've said, hey, I'm sorry the way I acted. Daddy's had a rough day. This happened here. This happened there. Oh, you mean like when this happened to me at school, or when my best friend didn't want to play with me?
They learn how to relate
Exactly.
your struggles to their own lives, and then that's probably how they start to map their way in the world and relate. I mean, that's I remember I did that when I was young, and I still do that a lot. That's how I connect with people. When someone is telling me a story, I'm like, huh, how can I relate? What have I been through that relates to that? And that's how I connect with that person, because then you can tap into your empathy, recall your emotions from whatever you went through, and say, oh, that's similar to probably how that person feels.
That, you know what? And I want to say that's acting 101 right there. I mean, go,
Acting 101, really?
yeah, transitioning into a conversation about art and acting. That's what it is. You read a character, you never judge a character, but you try to empathize with them, to say, what is this character innately feeling? What is their primal need here? What is their primal need? I know that they're discussing all these things, and the dialogue can be complicated, to be or not to be. That is the question: whether it is nobler in life to bear the slings of arrows of misfortune and da da da. Hamlet is saying, "God, why do I got to put up with all this bullshit? What's it all worth?" Hamlet was the first existentialist. William Shakespeare wrote a guy that stood up on stage, and I want to say during the Spanish Inquisition, when you couldn't question the existence of God, and he gets up and he's like, "To be or not to be, what is all this crap worth? Why? Why? I mean, like, why?" And that is to empathize. Who has not experienced that? There's a saying amongst some of the actual artist actors, the artists, that say, what there I am not the character. I may not be the, say, for instance, the Prince of Denmark, but that would be me under those conditions. How would my behavior be under those conditions?
So you
you
bring
know
your own flair, your own collection of experiences, and then you try to tap into the character and blend the two together to produce.
there you go. Every character is a collage of our experiences and our imagination. It's
See, I've always been
imagination.
curious about like acting, and
Mhm.
like I told you yesterday, being a comedian, I have this like really, I don't even know what I would call it, but this certain part of myself that I'm just so drawn to comedians because of that free flowing expression of just laughing at the stuff that I feel like I take seriously or a lot of people take seriously. And I've always had a curiosity, but shit, I'm so in my own head that it's hard to, like we were talking about yesterday, that voice that immediately stops you when you want to say something that is on the tip of your tongue and it just kind of comes out of the gut, and you feel like it's the truth, a joke or something witty or something peculiar, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, no, no.
We I mentioned Alan Watts last night, and Alan Watts has this great lecture, and I want to send it to you, where he talks about the Fool and the Joker. And these are individuals that the Joker knows that life is a game, that the social institution is a fucking game. It's not real. But rule number one is to take it serious. Rule number two, it's not serious. And once you can do that, you've released yourself. But the fool is the guy that can stand in beside the king, and as the king is making some serious proclamation, will comment on how the king, I don't know, is getting fat or whatever it is, because he's able to transcend he's able to transcend the moment into a truth and laugh at it. Comedians, all they're doing is speaking a transcendent truth. That's all. That's what they do. They're so. You want to know truth? Look at comedy. Look at
That's
comedy.
it's interesting you say that because my husband just told me that the other night.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. It's to be able to tap into that part of yourself,
Hmm.
and there's a tangible feeling when you're speaking truth, and it's sometimes for me, I was still toggling back and forth between personal truth and, societal truth, because we all have, we have to coexist in society. So it's like it would be a challenge, I feel like, if we were all just going around speaking our mind 24. I mean, we'd have to calibrate, right? But there's a tangible feeling when you speak your truth from the gut. There's no thought, there's so much clarity, and it's just coming out in such a free flowing state.
You're open, you're free, you are locked in to your being, to the experience of the moment, of the situation, of the circumstances, um, but you
I
can
mean,
still laugh
what
at it.
I think of is in this moment. I mean, there's no thought, there's no hesitation, there's
Hmm.
no contemplation. It's just it's coming out, and then even after the fact, there's no, you know, trying to figure out, should I or should I have not? Was this right? Was this not? It's no. It's such a tangible. This was it. This was me, my truth, and I let it out, and that feeling is so fucking good. And
Isn't it?
I want to tap into it more, but it's hard to
Isn't
get to
it?
that space.
Isn't it? I mean, I'll give you an example right now. I mean, something I'm experiencing. I'm doing the best I can to not sound like Alec Baldwin's sweaty balls guy on Saturday Night Live. Have you
Wait,
seen that skit?
I have not. No.
No. Okay. Oops. You said casual and raw and honest. Okay, here I am. So he's
No,
got
I
he's
haven't. And
got
you know what? The old performer me probably would have been like, I don't know if I would have lied about it, but I would have maybe tried to fake it till I make it in that. That's the kind of stuff that I used to do, but no, I have not seen it.
yeah, it's funny, they're doing this radio show. I think it takes place in Minneapolis or something. Uh Midwest. And so him and the other characters, they're kind of talking about what's going on around them and in their community. And he makes sweaty balls. That's a treat that he makes for everybody else. And this is what they do, very NPR-ish, and they're just very mindful of their tone of voice and what they're saying. And he passes around his sweaty balls for people to taste, you know? And I'm like, God, please don't sound like this guy right now. God,
That's funny.
it's okay, But I'm laughing at the moment. I'm laughing at the circumstances that you were able to provide, situation and the platform you're able to provide, and how I react to. We talked about life is is the experience of life is how we react to it. Life is going to happen. It's going to pop up. We cannot prevent anything. We've got to let go, surrender. But to
What a
laugh at our
concept.
reaction is okay. You know what? It is.
I mean, that is like we were talking about last night, the concept of letting go and just surrendering to the circumstances around you that are going to happen. I get it. When you say it, I'm like, yes, that makes sense. When other people say it, yes, I know. But there's that part in us, or at least I'll speak for myself, that part in me that just holds on to the control. And sometimes in situations I just don't have the tools to, or I don't feel like I have the tools. I know it's within me, but the patterns just kick in, and I feel like I have this inability to let something go, but I want to so badly. But then I go back to, well, do I really want to? Because I may be holding on to this for a reason.
It's. I think it's the biggest. Excuse me. The hardest thing to do in this lifetime is to let go. We're raised in a society where and I just sent you a clip, an Alan Watts clip. When you get a second, listen to it, where he talks about we're raised, we go to school, we're told to work hard, to struggle, to push, 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 do this thing, get this great grade so we can go to a reputable college and get good grades and push and push and push. And then we go to this job. And so we're always in control. You've got to control yourself. You've got to control. Oh, life hits you here. No, it didn't happen. avoid, don't worry about it, focus on what you're doing, control, control, control. 40 years old, you're like, what the hell, I'm still controlling, nothing is happening, life is still happening. 65 years old, I controlled my entire life, and here I am, no energy left, barely enough life, loaded bank account, but I
It's
got
the
nothing to
doing
do with
state.
it.
I feel like we become so addicted to the doing state, and I find myself in this space all the time where if I'm not doing something, if I'm just simply existing or being, meditating, it's my body buzzes, right? You know, because
Mm,
I'm doing something all day, so you sit down and my body's just buzzing, my mind is going fast, and you have to work through those times to get past that state into more of a state of calm, peace, relaxation, but it's scary
it is.
to sit with those feelings and sit with your mind, and you know, and there's also a pull to what I feel like is be something. I've experienced this as just, you know, everybody's becoming social media famous, and there's all these just people popping up
Influencers.
left and right, creating all these amazing things. And I just feel like we all crave creating something so badly. And you and I were talking about this last night, but then we pack ourselves with to dos and endless lists to where we never get bored. And therefore, we never really get into this creative space in order to tap into our truth and then create something. And it's this never ending cycle of wanting something, but then never even creating the space within ourselves to get there.
You know, you're right. We look at social media, we look at the media, and we say, okay, wow, this person here, wow, they're doing this, they're doing that. This Facebook friend is doing this, or doing great things. What if I'm doing? Oh my God, what am I doing with my life? I need to be somebody. I need to catch up. Oh, I'm falling behind. Life is passing me up, and it's all bullshit. You're looking at some, like the saying goes, you're looking at somebody else's highlight reel, not their behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and and
You're looking at
that
1%, and
you're
there's a
looking at that.
disconnect between thinking that that 1% is the a big part of the picture, which it's not.
It's not. And then you're looking at one of that 1%'s life. They choose to be who they want to, and so that makes everybody else, those of us who just don't have the time to, scale mountains and bring world peace in one day. It makes us feel really inadequate, because this other person's feeding the hungry and clothing the needy. And you're like, wow, I'm just a piece of shit, aren't I? So we
Well,
live
and
in a
that
society
taps
that.
into that instant gratification that I think you and I touched upon too. It's like I even struggle with this. I want to be, you know, it's like getting into the podcast world. You see successful podcasters, and you know, I already want to have 100,000 viewers, and it's like the way where your mind goes. And then when you don't get that, your mind taps into, oh, I'm a failure, I'm not doing something right, why am I not growing my platform, and all these things that just aren't true. But we get stuck
This
in that state of needing instant gratification, and if we don't have it, then we look at ourselves, which is not related at all. If you think about it, you're not getting instant gratification from others, but then you look at yourself and it's like, wait, that's those two aren't even the same thing.
mm, this is an excellent bridge here. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that's the reason of that society has a surge in depression, mental health disorders, or mental health issues, suicide? Is that we live in this, if you're not doing something great right now, you have no value? And do you think that's a factor?
I absolutely think it's a factor. Depression
Yeah.
and mental illness is those are really hard concepts to really hone in on the exact cause, because I feel like there are so many. One in particular that's huge, aside from what you just said, for me is I think diet plays a huge role. I mean, what
Yeah.
you're putting in your mouth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you are what you eat, right? And inflammation is a huge cause of chronic disease, and it's interesting to me to see the uptick in depression and anxiety, but then you walk around and people don't want to change their diets, and to me it made sense. When I was going through anxiety, I had a shitty diet, I was eating whatever I wanted, fast food all the time, lots of sugar, and started reading up on it, and I'm like, you know, this makes sense. What you're putting in your body affects you. But for some reason, I'm not sure if people don't want to understand that, or if they just are willfully ignorant and they choose to be in that space. But that food is a huge one for me. But on top of that, it's this beast of comparison
Mhm.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanting to be in a certain place because of what you see online. And I just also think that we get way too much information. I mean, our like even I will feel it in my head when I'm scrolling down my feed and I'm just like, oh, this person, oh, this person, oh, this business, oh, this motivational speaker. Let me watch this video real quick. Oh, four more messages from people. Oh, three more likes and four more comments. It's like it's too much.
It's too much, isn't it? You're right.
And
But
we're overloaded in our head with all of these snapshots and images and um just information that I feel like we cannot make sense of it, and it almost malfunctions in our brain.
it does, and it Terrence McKenna has this great talk, but it's kind of a universal concept that you look back and you see all the people that are awakened or individuals that get it and that find peace is that they all at one point stood up, looked around, and said, wow, this is bullshit. All of this, everything that I'm being fed is bullshit. This whole list of things that I need to accomplish, it's the time you're born, the way that it's set up, and the steps and the boxes I need to check off in life, and I need to compare myself to this person, or my GPA isn't high enough like that person, or I have a family member that's doing this, and here I am doing this, and I'm not worth a shit, and my cultural conditioning says that I should be this type of person. Social conditioning says that I should be this type of person, and I'm not meeting that because it doesn't feel natural to me. So I'll force myself. And one day the cracks start to appear and you fucking break and you say, it's bullshit. I cannot keep up with the timeline that life is giving me. I cannot keep up with the Joneses. I cannot do this there. Whatever. It's all bullshit. I break, and it takes a lot for that to happen. It's you have to end up in a very, very, very dark place, very lonely, dark place to see those little glimmers of light of truth. And once you pursue those, the truth starts to become more, I don't know, it makes more sense. You become more aware of certain things. And that's what, essentially an awakening is that the things around you aren't necessarily what you thought they were. And so I took a social media, actually, I wouldn't even say a break. I got off. I had no reason for it at all. And I can tell you that my perspective of life changed. No more comparison. Um,
Why do you
you
think
know,
some people awaken and others don't? Like I always look at myself and the combination of information that was presented to me, and I think I'm answering my question right now actually as I'm thinking through it, but the combination of information that was presented to me along with my life experiences, caused me to look at life in a certain way. And to me, the way I look at it is like I mean, how can other people not see all the bullshit? It's hard for me to understand, but then that also feeds into an issue that I have in my life of always thinking that I'm right and not being able to really see other perspectives. So I want to grab people metaphorically and just shake them and be like, look around, like this is what's happening. But so many people don't want to, or they're not at that place in their journey, or a combination of many things.
it's here. I'll use this example, and I used it with a Lego last night. I used it with a banana today. It's being raised to believe that this color right here is red, and that becomes your reality. This is red, and you can't convince me otherwise. And so when somebody walks into your life and says, "Dude, that is a yellow banana," no, it's not. It is a red apple. No, it is a yellow banana. And until you accept that it's a yellow banana, You're not going to be happy. You're going to be confused. You're going to wonder why you're not living up to the standards that are being put around you or being set for you. And you have to really say, wait a second, what is it that I believe? Why do I believe what I believe? Why? You've got to have that bullshit moment. And then you ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it because I feel that I'm supposed to do it? Is it because I'm told that I needed to do it and therefore I let others dictate what what happiness is, what joy is, and I'm being told to pursue things outside of myself in order to gain acceptance or whatever it is. And it really takes a very brave, a very courageous individual that has been knocked down, kicked in the ass, beaten up, left alone to break and to turn around and say, wait a second. This thought pattern, this operating system that I thought was working for me is not working. This is not working anymore. I'm sorry. I checked off all the boxes on the checklist of life. And you know what? Let me tell you my story, if that's okay. Let me
Oh,
tell you
I
my
I would
story.
love it, and, actually, to start out, I have this in front of me, I've been waiting for the
Mhm.
right time, but
Yeah.
the most for some reason, one of the most powerful messages you sent to me, you and I have been messaging a good amount lately,
Mhm.
but you said, I was there these last few years. I went
Mhm.
off the grid when I left the acting world. In addition, I stopped competing in the Spartan and other obstacle racing circuits. My circle of friends went from infinite to none. Big wake up call. I went into a self imposed exile, meditated on mountains, and lived like a monk. It was
Mhm.
just recently that I took back the handle on my heart and back into the light, revealing who stayed near. Few but meaningful relationships began to sprout. And I heard that and I was just
Wow.
it's like the dream, at least for me. Like sometimes I just want to throw my hands up, go away, reset, and there's so many things in the way, air quotes there, that prevent me from doing that. But I wanted to hear about you doing that because
No.
I mean, I'm curious.
Absolutely. So I was raised very conservatively. Thankfully, my parents gave me enough freedom to go out there, to explore, to get myself in trouble, to learn my lessons and so forth. But I always had this path. Um, Acting was not supposed to be one of them. I was supposed to run the family business, so go to school, run the family business, which is civil construction. I've got a brother that's an architect. And so there was this plan for me. Have you ever watched The Godfather, Michael Corleone? There's a scene where he says, wait a second, you guys planned my life for me. It was essentially like that. I'm the youngest, I guess you could say the black sheep. I came out of the acting closet when I was 19, 20 years old, but I had always written my entire life. I was always in tune with what I was feeling and I would write it down anywhere. And I remember being made fun of. I won't get into specifics here, but I had other family members that would find this and make fun of me. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Um, what I didn't realize is that it would stick with me. Little here, little here, little there, and it would build up. But I eventually I was signed. I was given a modeling. I was discovered and given a modeling contract. I was 19, 20 years old. Next thing you know it, I'm in New York. I'm at the Waldorf Astoria. I'm living life. And while I was there, somebody suggested acting, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of serendipitous here because I've always loved to act. I wrote a play when I was in seventh grade, got some good recognition. I came back and I told my family, hey guys, I'm going to leave college and I'm going to move back to New York. I'm going to be an actor. And my brothers were like, I knew he was gay. I'm like, no, but it isn't what you do. But I kind of promised my dad, yeah, one day I'll get my life straight and I'll come back and I'll run the family business. So went off, studied acting in New York, came back to Texas, and burned the stages up here anytime I could. Um, did independent film, regular film, commercials, you name it, anything that I can um, express myself with the entirety of my being, um, as an actor, as an artist more so. And I never did the LA thing. My mentor told me there's two type of actors in this world. You get the ones that wake up one day and say, "Oh wow, you know what? I'm looking pretty good. I want to be a movie star. I want to be the next, I don't know, Brad Pitt or J Lo, whatever." And they move out there and they never work on the craft. Then you get the ones who have felt different their entire life. There's something about them. They see the world differently. When I'm having a conversation with somebody, a 5 minute conversation with somebody, they may perceive 5 or 6 points. I'm perceiving 100
Mhm.
every minute. It's like wow, 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 wow. I mean, and it's not that I can control it. I'm absorbing it. I am seeing a deeper, transcendent truth in what they're telling me. And unless you have a way to express that, it'll drive you a little crazy,
I
you
relate to
know.
that.
Yeah, okay. So ended up doing that. You know, acted, um, did some pretty cool things that I could say I'm proud of. Traveled the country, did different plays, and really made a good. I feel a good impact in people's lives. I made great friends, and it was an interesting part of my life. But the entire time, there was this egoic presence in my head that this was me doing it, and it was me, and it was me. And they say pride before the fall, and that catches up to you. You start to believe your own hype. Right before I left acting, I was on a feature film in South Texas. Lorenzo Lamas was one of the actors. Danny Trejo was in it, and several other actors. And I mean, when you're on a film set and you've got a nice part, you're treated like royalty. At least I am, in my opinion. I had somebody that would make sure I had a coffee whenever I needed it, or snacks, or all the time. And this was like my individual. Like this was a person that just made sure that I had everything I needed all day long.
That you felt warm and fuzzy inside.
That I felt warm and fuzzy inside. And I did not feel warm and fuzzy inside, but it was communicated to me that unless I accepted it, I was going to be an issue.
So did you feel a disconnect in that moment of like, this is what I'm conditioned to be like, or I'm supposed to be feeling all catered and pampered, and I'm supposed to be feeling this way, but I'm really not? Were you conscious of that disconnect in that moment, or were you willfully ignorant to it?
I wasn't, I didn't actually intellectualize it, but there was something, you get that feeling, and you're empathetic. I take it you're an empath.
Yes.
Um, I believe I don't. My wife says I'm an empath, and I think so.
Yeah, like
From
you, I don't really walk around saying, I'm this, I'm that, I'm an empath, like you and I were talking about last night with labels, but I feel like I'm an empathetic person.
There you go.
I
Yeah,
feel a lot of shit all the time.
there you go. I relate, right? and
Yes.
and so, there was a gut feeling that this person was empty inside, that they were not being their true selves, that they were almost doing this in order to get to another level. They were just doing their time, and that this wasn't sincere. And I I I have this appreciation for sincerity, and I have a distaste for bullshit. I want sincerity in front of me. I want casual, I want openness, I want, give me truth. Give me, let's be truthful here. If you don't want to do this all day, if you don't want to give me coffee, and that's fine, because I really don't want it. I don't want this. I don't want this. This is not who I am. And I tried to force myself to accept that. Now, we stayed on this resort in South Texas, and it was a very small town, and um, there was small towns all around. So we were kind of like the biggest story, I guess, in that area in a while. Came out on the front page of some of the local newspapers. You would get people that would try to sneak on set and so forth. And this is I'm just a nobody actor from Texas, just a small town. Texas boy, right? And so you get thrown into this situation. Now, granted, this is something that is built up, so I kind of understood the industry already, but I just never really let it get here. For me, the art was always first, and the art was always to give, to give, to give, to give, to give. So this was a concept that was hard for me to grab any, to gain tread on, and so getting back to, we were staying on this golf resort, and it was a really nice one. And I mean, we were treated like the cat's meow, which is great. I mean, I am so appreciative for that. And we would have our production meetings, and we would have our breakfasts and our dinners at this grill, this bar and grill that was there on the resort property. And some of the locals would come in, and they would, they'd be outside on the patio, and they would be there for happy hour, and they would close off a section of the restaurant for us in the production so that we could eat or have the meetings that we needed to have about the next day or about production that day. And there's one particular day, we're having dinner, and it was like a 12-hour day, I think it was, and I just wanted to get back to my room, and I wanted to FaceTime my family. I wanted to talk to my kids and my wife, and I was a little tired. And I noticed that there had been a bigger crowd outside than usual. And the happy hour, they were being loud. They were having a good time. No problem. That's great. I mean, that's awesome. If I wasn't working the next day, I probably would have gone out there too and hung out with them, right? And a PA comes up and says, "Hey, some of these folks, the locals, would like to, kind of meet you guys, take some pictures, get some autographs." And I'm thinking, I'm nobody. I don't. Who wants my autograph? I'm a nothing. And I really didn't feel like it. Like I said, I was tired. Just wanted to go back. I had a like
Really quick,
six.
I don't want to interrupt the flow, but you keep I noticed you're saying you felt like a nothing and nobody actor. Where was your mind at? Like what metric were you using to develop that? Because that's just interesting. Was it just the popularity of, is that how the industry works? Is the industry kind of brainwashing you to think there are ranks, this person is popular, this person isn't, or was that just something internal that you were dealing with?
It's a combination of that, of the industry, of the machine. Some people call it, where you have your alpha actors, the ones that, you know, that persona that they created, that image that's what sells money. And you need to know your place. You need to know your place.
So they
Uh,
make it known that they're the alpha actors and that
that's
you're not.
that's right. Thankfully, that never really happened to me. I never had anybody degrade me in that manner. But the way I studied the art was, you are okay. The way I studied acting was this: the idea, an idea, is the biggest thing in the world. Ideas cause revolutions. Ideas can bring peace. Ideas can bring war. An idea is the most powerful thing in existence. Nobody knows where to get it from. So when a writer gets an idea, it's almost like they've been divinely communicated that you need to get this out. So as an actor, it was my job to get this writer's idea. Say, let's use Hamlet. It's my favorite play. Okay, let's use Hamlet. Hamlet walked into a situation where his dad had just died, his mother had married his uncle, who's now the king, and everybody's partying. And he thinks, what the fuck? What the hell? Why is everybody going on like nothing? You're spending all this money on parties, and nobody's ruling the kingdom, and nobody's governing anything, and now our enemies want to, see a weakness in us. And mom, you married my uncle. I mean, my dad just died. He just died, and here you are thinking everything's okay.
What the hell is
He's
going on?
What the hell is going on? Like, what the fuck? Do you guys have no heart, have no soul? What happened to humanity here? What is more important? Ambition? The need for, for acceptance. This new king here, my dad was his brother. This is my uncle. How does he not? What is going on? And so, to be or not to be, like, what the fuck? Like, okay. So Hamlet gets told, but the ghost of his father appears to him and says, "Avenge my murder. My brother killed me." And so he goes, "Okay, that's not cool." either I'm going losing my mind or I need to do something about this. And so the idea of killing the king comes up. But you know that once you kill the king, you better get it right. You're not going to make it. I mean, you're not going to walk out of that situation alive. You know, those that kill the king end up being killed themselves. It's inevitable unless you
Mhm.
plan on taking over. But and so he's Hamlet starts to, he questions everything. And so as an actor, as an artist, you have to really understand the storyline, the situation, the circumstances, transcend it into a primal truth, and say, what is this all worth? Why, why all of this? Why is all this? Why this structure? Why do people behave like this? And I mean, and Hamlet has been broken down for hundreds of years, and everybody has a different interpretation. But
Well, and I think
um,
that leads into the next part of your story, right?
mhm,
Because I think I know you gave me kind of a preview of your questioning of what the hell's happening.
yeah,
Um,
so I was so the way I learned the craft, and I had a reverence for it, and for me it was a very noble thing. You become a voice of the voiceless. It's
what do
you
you mean by that?
well, there's a lot. Let's just say, for instance, a mechanic. If I'm playing a part as a mechanic, okay, um, the life of a mechanic is not going to be the same life as, let's say, a lawyer. You know, mechanic knows certain pains. A mechanic knows certain
Oh, so
disappointments, knows
you
certain
have a
victories.
chance to exude all of those emotions that, for example, the mechanics are feeling on a day-to-day basis and bring those to the table and bring those to life so then they feel a sense of connection
And that's it.
to you
That's it. And
for
I'm
that role.
telling their story to the world, and to say, you may see a mechanic as maybe some type of tool wielding grease monkey, who is you're kind of leery about, that they may be jipping you off. But I'm going to tell you life. I'm going to tell you a life story through the experiences of a mechanic as a mechanic, and to show that they're just human under different circumstances. That
That's why I feel
there's
like
no
when you
difference.
watch a movie and, for me, when I watch a movie and I'm like, "This character is me." Like, you watch it and you're just like, "Yes," and it feels so good when the character keeps on saying things or doing things that you feel like would be exactly what you did, because then
Mhm.
it's almost like you're watching yourself, and it's very healing.
Isn't it healing? It
Mhm.
really is. The artist is in the same lineage as the shaman. Like you
Because
said,
I
healing.
feel like it takes away that feeling of feeling like you're alone.
Yes, it does. The shaman is supposed to transcend this reality into, they call it maybe different worlds, but those different worlds are different levels of consciousness. We're able to see a clearer picture, a bigger picture, and a lot of healing is done there. And we can, and it may, cannabis meditation is something that has really helped me out, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But so, you know, as an artist, as an actor, that's your responsibility. Stella Adler said it best. If your job in the theater and in that play is to die every night, you need to die every night. And the encompass the totality of that experience and that type of death every single night. I mentioned to you that I did a play where I had to throw up. I played a political prisoner. The name of the play is story is Kiss of the Spider Woman. I played an Argentine political activist that was in prison in the 70s, which in horrible. I mean, it was a horrible time in Argentina's history. I had to do the research, and I put myself in that world, in that life, and I was being tortured. I was being starved, and my character is a scene where he is being starved, and he's fed this chicken. He's fed pieces of chicken that's cold and it's probably spoiled, and so every night I'm gorging, I'm devouring, I'm hoovering this chicken. And when you haven't eaten in a while and you've been tortured and living in your own excrement just about, and being treated like an animal, and you devour something that isn't really good for you. Your body has this violent reaction. And so every night I would puke on stage. And I was able to psychophysically manipulate myself to puke. I was there. I would throw up every single night, 4 or 5 times a week for a long time, for weeks. And, it's what I had to do. It was my responsibility as an artist
So how did you
because
transition out of that when you stopped doing this play and your body was, you know, psychosomatically responding to the impulse, I'm sure, to throw up every single night or 4 or 5 times a week? How did you like, when you stopped doing this, did you feel the impulse to throw up for a certain amount of time?
I did. I did. I couldn't eat roasted chicken for a while. Um, I had to ground myself. I had to get as far away from that world as possible. I had to get that part of Anthony, and I had to essentially say, "Hey, man, we're done, bro. You're good. Let's go ride your motorcycle. Let's play with the kids. Let's go take the wife out. Let's this is you're not this guy. You're not this political prisoner in Argentina. You can let it go. Is it hard? Yes, absolutely. It is. It really is. And I wish I could be like the other actors. I could just let it go. I couldn't. I wasn't either. I wasn't that good, wasn't that trained, or I just didn't know. I'm not wired to do that. And so, I would take time off. We would take a vacation afterwards. We would just get away from everything. Um,
Hey, that
uh,
speaks to what I was telling you yesterday about something I deal with in my life is taking in the hardship or experiences of others when I feel like someone tells me a trying story about
mhm.
a medical condition or some hardship that they've faced. I feel like I live it with them as they're telling me, but then I carry that pain almost like it was my own experience. And it's so challenging to disconnect from that. I'm still learning how to do it. I feel the weight and I have to constantly tell myself, like you were just saying, this is not me. Like, this is not my story. This is someone else's story. But it too often meshes in with my story and I take it on like it is. And it's so exhausting.
You're right. It's exhausting. It really, really, really is. But it's also a beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful. I really do. And
If you learn how to calibrate it, if you learn
if
how
you
to
learn,
use it and not allow it to just take up all of your energy, because if it's taking up all of your energy and you have nothing left to give, then what's the point of even having it in the first place, because you can't really do anything with it.
that's right. Yeah. Then you live in a world of parasitic um, um, situations, and,
Mhm.
and that can be very detrimental to a lot. Um,
So back to your
Circling back,
story, I was
yeah,
gonna say, because I wanna hear how the you kinda gave me a preview of this little mini story you're telling right now, but I wanna hear how it led into everything else.
sure. So there I am having dinner, and I'm tired. It's 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock at night, and I just want to get back to my place, to my suite I had, and just unwind, let it all go. Um, and a PA walks through and says, "Hey, some of the local townspeople would love to hang out with you guys. Maybe go out there, shake some hands, take some pictures, sign some autographs. I think it would be great for publicity for the production." Um, I didn't really want to do it, but okay. So I went out there with a couple of other actors, and people are having a great time. I don't harbor any ill feelings towards them at all. I mean, it's just, hey, it is what it is. Okay, it's great. Let me go out there and do my thing, come back in, finish my dinner. I'll go back. So the moment you walk out there, I realize, okay, wow, they're feeling pretty good. They're partying out here hard. This is great. Go out there, they embrace us with open arms. You feel the love. They're excited, and for a guy that I consider myself I'm a regular person. I don't. I'm just a guy that I'm just a guy. I'm just like I told them. Hey, I'm just like you guys. I happen to be doing this. And if I wasn't working tomorrow, I'd probably get in trashed with you guys too. But so the pictures started, and selfies with the actors and autographs and so forth. And I guess the more the liquor was flowing, some of them started to get a little too confident. Um, I heard, a couple of people, actually more than a couple, yell, "Hey, look, he's got a six pack. Take off his shirt." When they're putting their arms around you to take pictures, they're kind of reaching into places that are not too comfortable. You kind of want to blow it off initially, then you start to say, okay, this is just getting worse. Then you see the avalanche of courage and liberties that they're starting to take with you, and all of a sudden you realize you're not being seen as this human anymore. You're this thing that they are entertaining themselves with, and it was it was surreal for me. And it's kind of like, and kind of like I pulled. It's almost, we talked about this yesterday. We kind of pulled away from the situation, and I thought, wow, what the hell is going on? And the heavier it got, I realized that mentally I was going off this edge, that I couldn't sustain it anymore. I couldn't sustain my composure, and I had an all-out panic attack there. I was just, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure I look like a deer in headlights, and there's cameras going off, and
You
there's
just
people wanting
freeze.
autographs. I froze, and this PA looks at me, and I look at her like, "Get me out of here! Get me out of here! Like, I can't do this." She sees the she sees the panic in my eyes, and it takes a lot to scare me. It takes a real lot to scare me. I like to think that maybe somewhat of a masculine guy, that, okay, I can handle this, but the realization was that I couldn't handle that. And I didn't want to handle that. I didn't want to be in that situation. I was ignorant to the situation. I walk in, and and some of the crew members are making comments like, "Wow, that's crazy. They're having a good time out there," and this and that. And I remember Lorenzo Lamas looks up at me and some of the other actors, and he's like, "Get used to it, buddy. Like, this is the world. This is the life. This is it right here. Get used to it." And I thought, I don't want to get used to that. I'm a dad. I don't want to expose my kids to that. Now, I have, well, in the past, there were times when I would be in town and people would recognize me from local commercials, and I would have my kids with me, and my kids were kind of annoyed by it. My kids were never really fans of dad, which is great. I love that. Um, but at the same time, I said, this is not, if this is what goes with this life, I don't want any part of this. I don't. I remember, and I left. I got back. The driver drove me back to my room, and it took me a few minutes to really just chill, to ground myself. I had to FaceTime my family, and I was telling my wife, I said, the weirdest thing just happened to me, and I don't like it. It made me feel very, very uncomfortable. And she knows that I can be comfortable anywheres. I'm always comfortable. I like to, I'm just myself. And it,
Do you
it,
feel like
it,
that was the turning point for your acting career?
I think it was, I really do, because at the same time, my agent was, I can tell they were, well, they were kind of putting a career plan for me. And I was auditioning for different directors, and I was getting called to be part on these different TV shows and so forth. And it's my personal decisions, my grasp on the situation was being pulled away from me. And there's there's letting go of control. There's letting go of control, and then there's having control taken away from you. And mine was the second. And
Well, yeah, because I
I'm
mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but just this get used to it. You don't have a choice. Basically suck it up, or I mean, there's no other option. That's all too common these days, especially in corporate America and the workplace of, you gotta play by our rules and that's it. You can't speak up. And
You can't speak up.
it's a scary place to be. I really like what you just said about the difference of voluntarily surrendering control yourself versus having it ripped out from you without any say from you. Two very different things.
That's right. You make a choice, for the choice will be made for you. And I had a lot of soul searching to do. And at the same time, my ego had already reached a point where it started to believe some of the hype. There's certain decisions I made that maybe weren't detrimental to my peace. Um, that I had in my world, and um, I I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. The days of me wanting just to be on stage with a script or an idea and to convey it to the public. Um, I'm letting my dog out right now. One of my dogs, my
Okay.
oldest dog, out. Um, like he's bailing on me. No, but I had to sit back and say, okay, what is it that I want? Who am I? I had identified myself as an artist, as an actor, for a majority of my life, and I didn't know who or what I was anymore. And I had these two kids at home that were growing and they needed their father. When my oldest son took his first steps, I was doing a radio interview in Cincinnati, I believe. And I remember I stepped out and my wife had left all these voicemail messages. And, when I got to talk to her, she said, Diego took his first steps. And wow, I mean, I missed this. I miss this because I wanted this, but I miss that. And there's something inside of me that just doesn't feel right about that. And that's just one of, one of many episodes. And I, it isn't, it isn't what, people think it is. And my ego was that, hey, we can do this, man. You can sacrifice a little bit more. We're going to reach that pinnacle. We're going to reach that peak. We're going to be in high cotton and life is going to be good and this and that. And my heart was saying, I just want to read literature and read it out loud and bring the writer's message to people, to the masses. And the other part says, no, man, we're doing good, we're looking good, we're ripped, when we're good looking, and people want you on camera and all this other stuff. And at the heart of it all, I have a home. I have a world that I come from, that I am, that I identify with, and I wasn't there.
Well, I think that's
And
actually it's interesting the choice of words that you use because you speak on your heart space and it's actually
mhm,
metaphorical in a way to the condition that you were telling me about that you have, and this kind of coincides with that timeline, right?
it just coincides with oh wow, boy. So I ended up in this really kind of existential place. At the same time, I was having conversations with my family about going back to school and finishing up um, a degree that's more catered towards a family business, construction management. And I was supposed to be the prodigal son, come in, get the degree, come in, take over the company, and lead us into the land of milk and honey. And life was going to be good. Everybody was going to be at peace. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had lived my life already, the way I wanted to. Now I'm going to be doing this. And as I was doing this, things just didn't make sense. And I remember this one day, I was jumping on the trampoline with my kids, and my wife and I had we were in this weird place, and everything was my fault, and I know that, and I was trying to re-strengthen our relationship, and I was jumping up and down on the trampoline, and it was August. I want to say it was August. And I remember seeing, if you've ever seen the sunset in Texas, it is one of the most, I don't know, it is an experience that I think everybody needs to experience. Texas is a state of mind, but the sun in Texas also takes on that same state of mind. It's a freedom, it's a bigger, it's bolder. And I remember seeing the sunset in the summer evening, the warmth of my skin, the sweat on my brow, the laughter of my kids, echoing this symphony of happiness and joy that life was finally coming back together. I was finally being grounded. Dad was here. And then the lights went out. And I said, okay, well, that was quick. And I remember looking over at my wife and seeing just this beautiful woman with the summer breeze blowing through her hair and just really looking like a Greek statue of Aphrodite was sitting right there looking at us, drinking either lemonade or iced tea. And the lights went out again. And the next thing I know, I'm on the couch, and I had this chest pain, and my arm felt funny. My jaw was tight. I couldn't really breathe. And my wife was sitting over me, and she was like, "Are you okay? Hey, come back, come back, come to me, man." And I'm thinking, okay, what happened? That I hurt myself or whatever? And she told me that I got up. This is maybe the machismo in me. I got up and I said, "Nope, I need to bathe the kids." I wanted to avoid what was going on, so I went and I bathed my youngest son. It was nighttime, time to put him to bed. I bathed him.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wanted to avoid
So at this
the
time you had lost consciousness twice, and this was
yeah.
like the third time you got up and you're like, "Okay, let's just keep going."
Just keep going. Let's just keep going. And
It's interesting that you say that because with my fainting experience, I fainted 3 times in a row. Every single time I fainted, I tried to get up again, like keep going, keep walking, and then my body would fall again. Then I would try to get up again, like nope, I'm good, and then it's like your body's like, no, stop, stop.
your mind is like, keep going, keep going. As long as we don't accept what is going on, it's going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to suffering is the resistance or not accepting pain. You've got to accept the pain. You've got to accept the crappy moments. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
accept it in order to get through it. When you don't accept it is when your suffering begins. And I wasn't accept. I was going to keep going. I don't even remember any of this. What I do
You
remember
don't
is that
remember bathing your kids?
I don't remember. No, I don't remember this. I don't remember that at all. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. I was in the emergency room, and I was looking up. Saw my wife and I saw my parents, and there were doctors, and I was hooked up to all this stuff. Right now, granted, I've always been in good health. I've always taken care of myself. I've always played sports. I've pretty lived pretty much an athletic life. I love to be active. I'm always doing things right. And hey, Dan, how you doing, buddy?
That's my husband for
Oh,
you.
he's awesome. He's awesome, man. I
He's
love him.
trying
He's
to, babe,
awesome.
you can be in here.
Hey, brother, how you doing, man?
He said Anthony
But
says hi.
guten Tag. But I didn't know what happened, and I asked my wife, "What's going on?" And she says, "I think you had a heart attack." I said, "There's no fucking way."
And how old were you at this time?
I was 34, 35. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, "There's no way." I mean, like, this does not, like, science doesn't, the scientific facts of life don't allow for this to happen. This is not, I cannot compute this. How can you say I had a heart attack? I
Well,
am in
usually you would see somebody at their 35. I mean, I've heard of 35-year-olds having a heart attack, but it's terrible diets, lots of crazy stress, not in touch with any sort of trauma, and that just doesn't sound like you or where you were at. So your
no,
mind, you're probably like, this does not add up.
this does not add up. Wasn't even much of a drinker. I was doing a lot of CrossFit. I was running the Spartan race circuit. I was kicking ass and taking names. In my opinion, everything was good. I was the picture of perfect health, and I don't really remember too much of that hospital stay. I remember them waking me up a lot for different testing and so forth. And I do remember that they were doing an EKG on me, and I remember the concerned look on the doctor's face about. I don't remember what he said particularly, but he did tell my wife, "Wow, there's something going on in there. I just don't know what it is." I ended up seeing a cardiologist.
So in
Thankfully,
the
whatever.
hospital stay,
Mhm.
they didn't find anything wrong,
No, they
except for
said, "Hey,
what you were just
you,
saying. There's something going on, but they're just like,
mhm."
they just don't know what it was.
They're like, "You had a heart attack, man.
Oh, so
You
they
had a
told you had a heart
Yeah,
attack.
they're like, you had a minor heart attack. It was, yeah, you had a minor heart attack. You should be good. This is what you need to do. Follow up with your doctor. Da da da. The protocol that happens. You go in, they diagnose you, they give you what you need. Go see your doctor. Boom, you're gone. Right.
Yep.
Um,
No talk of
so
like change of lifestyle really or anything, right? It's just you had a heart
no,
attack,
not at
here's some
all.
medicine, and boom.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're good. We'll bill you
You're good,
later.
you're alive.
You're alive, right? My wife, being the take charge girl that she is, was not going to take this, was not going to take the non-action as an answer. No, we're going to do something about this. So thankfully, one of our really good friends works at a cardiologist's office, and she called her up, and they got me in immediately. And so instead of going to see this other cardiologist that wasn't going to see me for a week, I was in like the next day, I think. He ran some tests on me, um, and he asked me. I remember he walked in the room. He walked in the room and he said, "Have you ever had heart issues?" I said, "No, of course not. I've never had any issues. I've hurt my back a few times working out, but that's because my ego got in the way, but never." And so he asked me if I knew what the vagus nerve was, and I said, "Never been to Vegas. Can't say I do." That's what he did, and then he got serious, and he says, "Okay," he says, and then apparently the vagus nerve is something that is just being uncovered. I mean, the influence that the vagus nerve has is a lot more than people thought it was, especially in the medical field. And if people don't know what that is, it's a major nerve that goes from your brain down through all of your major systems and organs, connects it. It essentially it controls your fight or flight. It regulates your systems, your heart, your lungs, your stomach. Any digestive issues can be attributed to that. It's just so vast, and they're learning stuff about it every day. Well, apparently, when my vagus nerve connects to my heart, there's a dysfunction there, or if you would think a short circuit. So if you think of a wire going into an alternator in a car or a battery, apparently where it connects to the heart, it short circuits or disconnects. So it shuts down. And what happened is that it disconnected or short circuited, and it caused my heart to seize up, sending messages to my brain that said, "Okay, we're dying," shutting everything down.
So did you
Um,
technically have a heart attack, or did your heart stop, or what was your heart actually doing? So you're saying it's seizing up, so
mhm.
it's almost like I can't really picture the anatomy of what's going on.
So what happened is it wasn't a heart attack. What happened is that where the signal to tell my heart to keep beating, we've got these systems in our these programs, these subconscious workings in our body that makes our heart beat and lungs, breathe and food to digest. Well, where it's supposed to tell the heart to beat here and beat here and beat here or whatever. So there was a short circuit, and so the message wasn't getting to my heart. So my heart said, "Oh, what? Brain dead? No messages? Okay." And it kind of seized up. It just seized up. It just like, "Oh, okay, we're not working right now. No
And
signal to work."
it sounds like it was coming back and forth though. It sounds like it
Yeah.
would be because you were waking up, so it was almost like it didn't know how to regulate itself, right?
It didn't know how to regulate itself. So what it did is that it's in these messages. There's an overload of messages in my body, fight or flight messages. It says, "We're dying, we're not dying. We are, we're not. But this is happening. But the heart stopped working. But no, I'm still working." So all these things there's this argument between all these different systems.
I
And
don't
I'm
wanna self-diagnose myself, but I feel like I have a very similar thing going on, but with my stomach.
mhm,
I go through these weird bouts of pure panic. I mean, I had panic disorder for many years, but just pure panic and feeling like I'm nauseous, and that feeling of my fight or flight just being activated and like I'm dying. And then another moment, I feel fine, and then it comes
mhm.
back, and it's a very bizarre physiological feeling because you really feel like you're going out.
You do, you do, you do. I remember thinking, wow. So my last vision on earth is of my family and a sunset. Wow, what a beautiful way to go. What a beautiful way to go.
Well, that's amazing that you were thinking that in that
hmm
time, and you had that clarity.
Yeah, the mind does a crazy thing when it accepts death. It does a crazy thing.
We were talking about that yesterday with skydiving and that whole
Mm,
yeah, I mean, I hear stories of people that have had near death experiences and have come back, and so many of them say it's so peaceful before. See, we're so afraid of death in this life, in this material world, because it's unknown and we don't know. But I hear that the body prepares itself.
it does. It brings you a sense of peace, and I mean, Weeks later, months later, revisiting that moment, what stands out the most is the feeling I had, and that was a peace and just I don't know, just a mercy that the universe or God or source energy had on me that I'm going to give you this last vision here before we go, before you transition. You're going to go out with a smile, buddy. And that stuck with me. It did, because when the doctor came into the room and he talked to us, he you feel the energy change in the room, that you're about to receive something, you're about to be communicated something that's going to change your life. And he said, look, there's nothing we can really do about this. We can go in there, we
Oh,
can try to
this
fix
is
it.
the doctor that you saw that
Mhm.
told you about the vagus nerve. Okay.
That's right. The cardiologist. Yeah, sorry. So he comes in and he sits us down and he says, we can do it. We can put a pacemaker in. It's going to go here and it's going to go in through your neck into your brainstem, and then we're going to shoot it down. It's going to go into here. But it's going to affect your quality of life. We can give you medicine, but it's going to affect other parts of your body. The side effects are not good. You're young. I don't know if you want to do that, but you're going to have to take them the rest of your life, and to regulate, I guess I don't really know, because what happened is that I kind of blanked out. I saw him talking to me and I saw my wife, but none of this was really registering to me. It wasn't registering. I
Well, you're
remember
probably in
just
a state of shock. I mean,
I
that's
was
big news.
I was in a state of shock, I think. And actually I didn't even think about that until you said that right now. Remember, I made a joke about it, I think. I made a joke about it. And I'm like, well, hopefully my insurance is good. My life insurance is good. Um,
Well,
but
that's what trauma is, right? It's when the state of your existence as you currently know it in your
mhm,
lens that you currently have changes in an instant. So
changes an
you have
instant.
somebody telling you right then and there, there's not much we can do without affecting your quality of life. What do you want to do? And it's kind of like, I don't know.
uh,
Like you can't even process it. I imagine I wouldn't be able to process in that moment either.
no, I mean, looking at it now, I probably would have ordered a cheeseburger. I wouldn't like, okay, you're giving me options. I'll take a cheeseburger. Like that doesn't compute. I cannot quantify that. That is not a concept that I can intellectualize.
So
And he
my
said,
question is, I don't
"Huh?
think you have an answer to this, but I you would think there is some sort of tangible trigger. So like I have a friend that has atrial fibrillation, for example, her heart goes out of rhythm from time to time.
Mhm,
I don't know exactly the cause, but I believe it's she has an over abundance of electrical impulses that goes
mhm."
to her heart so it starts beating really fast. And she said her biggest trigger is dehydration. So for her, if she's remaining hydrated, it really doesn't happen. So she has a way to kind of regulate it, even though anything can happen at any time. But I'm surprised that your event didn't have some sort of tangible trigger to something maybe you did differently, some emotional stress that was going on or something.
I do believe it was a lot of emotional stress, but dehydration was another big one. When you put yourself into a dehydrated state, you're stressing your entire body. You're a CrossFit athlete. You know how this is.
Well,
You
that's actually why I fainted. I've had 3 fainting experiences, and, it's amazing to look back on my history because the first time I fainted, I actually was donating blood, so it's not uncommon. Second time was when I broke my toe, I fainted 3 times in a row, and third time was when I had the stomach flu, and I look back before these experiences, and I don't even remember drinking water. I mean, that is
wow.
of course, I drank water, but in that time in my life, I mean, now I'm drinking 60 to 80 ounces plus a day with teas and elixirs and things like that. I mean, I keep my body hydrated and I feel a difference. But the first 25 years of my life, man, I probably had like a bottle of water and then you have like juice or other, dehydrating substances. And I'm just like, how did my body even function with the lack of water that I had? So is that something that you noticed for yourself too? Were you not drinking a lot of water before that time?
I think so. I think that I was so locked into my head, into my mind, with just the world changing around me, and what I had perceived was supposed to be my life path. And I was so locked into that I had locked out self care. I was dehydrated. I was
See, how is
stressed.
someone supposed to I hear that word self-care and I focus on it too, or I try to, but how does one even do that when they've never even been shown that? Or it's like, what does that term even mean? I take a bath, for example, and I'm like, oh, I'm self-care, but then I'm like, my mind is racing in the bath. So is this really self-care? It's
Is this
hard to
really self?
define.
How do you define it? And I think everybody. It's not a universal term, you know. In the sense that yeah, we have to keep ourselves alive and our body does require certain things to keep working. It's essentially a meat machine, so there's certain things that are required, whether it's nutrition, liquids, um, health, mental health, you know and it it's easy to let go when we're not educated to have self to what is self-care. It's virtually a new concept, because for growing up, um and kind of the world I grew up in, self-care was, hey, if you're having a shitty day, go buy yourself a six-pack, find a buddy to talk to, or go do something crazy, get it out of your mind. Hey, I'm taking care of myself, it's okay, don't worry about me, I'll grab a corn dog on the way out.
Yep. Yep.
um
Medicate with food, alcohol, pills, that the increasing opiates crisis. And
oh
I mean,
yeah,
just, yeah,
it's not
that's
self-care.
the Western way of self-care. Push the problems away with substances. You just see
The
it.
bastardization of self-care, man.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So you had this huge event happen. You're being
mhm,
told that there's basically nothing you can do without medical intervention, which I believe you chose not to do.
I chose not to do it because it was going to take away my quality of life.
So how do
And
you in the coming or in the weeks after, days after, weeks after, months after to now,
mhm,
has it been a progression of your mental state with just dealing with living alongside this kind of unknown thing, known but unknown of what triggered it, if it could happen again? Like how do you sit with that? I admire you for being able to do that, because I mean that takes it takes a lot.
it it my choice. Um, I knew that the choice that I was going to make right after he told us this news was going to set my life and the life of everybody around me on a different course forever. And I wanted to make sure that it was a course that was going to bring the best life experience for everybody that I had an influence on: the children, my wife, my parents, my siblings, my friends, my family, and extended people in my world, which at this point wasn't much anymore, because when I left acting, I went from, like I said, infinite number of friends to nothing, right? Um,
So that explains it then. So your main friendships were all of your acting buddies. So then when you
what
left them, it was just like, who am I supposed to hang out with now?
am I supposed to hang out with now? And I grew up in a small town in Texas, so the people you went to school with from kindergarten until you graduated, and nobody really left the town. So you can always come back home and people are still there. They're going to embrace you, love you. And they did. I mean, a lot of my friends that I have now have been my friends for 30 plus years. Um, so I had to really reevaluate and redefine everything in my life and know that this no longer was, I don't know, this is something that I had to somewhat be selfish here, and I had to say, okay, why, what is going to be the purpose of my existence going forward? Now, the doctor did say this, which gave me hope. He did say, look, this could happen to you again a month from now. It could happen 2 years from now. It may happen 50 years from now. And when it happens, your heart may not start again. Um, and there's nothing, that's it. It's the Russian roulette every day, right? So it may happen tomorrow, he said. You may happen tomorrow, and it just may seize up and it's not going to start up again. That's just it. I mean, it's I'm sorry to tell you, but doctors have this I really admire their way of dealing with these type of situations, on a daily basis, because he was a human being talking to a human being saying the rest of your life is going to be a game of Russian roulette, and it's up to you to choose to live it the way you want to. It is your choice. That really resonated in a place inside.
That's that's very powerful. I'm trying to soak it in here on
So
the
am
other
I
side here. Like
still.
uh, yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what that state is like because I feel like for myself, you know, I hold on to things like I'm healthy. I hold on to that for this sense of false security or false control of, oh, I think everything can happen to me, but nothing can happen to me at the same time. It's a very weird state of existence to where I'm like imagining all these catastrophes and scenario building in my head constantly, almost every single day. With my husband jokes with me that I create 100 different problems, imaginary problems, just to solve them before they even happen, and then so I can just feel better about the potential problems that I prevented them. So I do this all the time, but then I kind of also hold on to, oh, but I'm healthy, so all these potential things, they could happen, but they probably won't. But to hear those words from a medical professional that your life is basically Russian roulette, I mean, wow.
Yeah. Um, it took me a bit to really digest that, to allow that to process. And I think I still am processing that. And this is years ago, yeah, 4 years ago, I think. So I, it didn't just happen where, okay, now I'm going to go on a cruise and we're going to enjoy life and then we're going to
And now
go.
your life just transformed overnight. And yeah, I'm living.
It's like, okay, what do we do now? Like I still had responsibilities, I still had stuff, but we did make a choice that, okay, we're going to go ahead and risk it. We're just going to live. I'm going to live. I'm going to live. I'm going to, life is a game of chance. And you got to take risk if you're going to live. And I've always been kind of a nonconformist at the core. I've never really wanted to go with the status quo. I want to go against the grain. It seems more fun. I like to upset the peace and the
I like your
stagnant.
style.
Yeah, man. It's fun. I want to laugh at the back of. I want people laughing at my funeral. I want people laughing, celebrate life, and so it it took me a bit, and I didn't accept it at first. To be honest, I didn't accept it. I said I'm going to go on with life, but it was there, and I went through my process. I went through stages of anger. I went through, I felt like a victim for a while, and at the same time, I finished up my degree in construction management at the University of Houston. Go Cougs! And uh, got into the family business, took over, ran it, and did some really cool things. I mean, I'm still there now. Um,
Did you revisit this, your experience on the trampoline and just the whole medical aftermath and everything during your mushrooms experience?
yes, yes.
I want to
I
hear
did.
about that.
I will. I'll get to that really
Okay.
soon, um, because it's one thing that I think I found healing there, with the psilocybin. But after years of working in in the civil construction business and being that prodigal son, having that story, that narrative that I was supposed to live, and being the prodigal son and coming back and taking it over, and this and that and peace, and everybody's happy, I realized that I'm living Russian roulette here, and I'm not living my life still. So you see, instead of coming back, instead of saying, "Okay, Anthony, you've got this issue here, so go ahead and live life and enjoy every moment," I kind of didn't accept it and went
So it
back
was
into
kind of
the
like
narrative.
like a you were halfway, like you kind of
halfway.
knew what it was, and then
Mhm.
you were trying, but then there was something still not clicking.
Right, right. Something still like I refused to confront it. And when you refuse to confront pain and the uncomfortable things in life that we have to confront, and then we have to really embrace and nurture and love those demons. Those demons just want to be, they just want to be
They just
loved.
want to
They
be
want to
seen.
be, they want to be seen. They want to be embraced.
God,
I
that
didn't.
is so, it's resonating with me so deeply as you're saying that, because I feel the same exact way with my phobia of fainting, where I think about it all the time. I know it's there, I see it, but I'm still held back because I haven't gone into the place where I've actually addressed that fear and completely stared at it. There, I dabble in it. I
Mhm.
sometimes, I kind of get into that place, and I'm trying to observe myself, and I'm trying to look at it, but it's still this in between space that we're speaking of right now, of knowing you have a demon, because sometimes people don't even know that the demon is there, but knowing
Right.
you have the demon, living alongside it, but not really staring at it, is a very uncomfortable place, and that's where I'm at right now. So I just deeply resonate with that.
It is. And I didn't tell anybody. And there's still a lot of people in my world that do not know because I didn't want them to treat me any differently. So I took this macho approach to it because it's what I was taught. You reach hardships, you don't think about them, you tough your, you work your way through it, you bulldoze through it. It isn't an issue only if you think about it. It's don't deal with it, just bury it deep down inside, suck it up, buttercup, you're going to be okay. Just keep going forward, keep pushing, 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 pushing until you break, until you break. And I didn't realize this, but I would come home from work and I would sit down and I would stare at the wall. And I did this for months. And I asked myself, why do I feel so empty inside? I've checked, yeah, I've got this condition, but I've checked off all the boxes that life has on the list of success. I've checked them all. I've done it. I'm living life. I'm doing it.
So what's missing?
So what's missing? So what's missing? And the I guess the catalyst that really pulled me back into this was I don't know if tomorrow is guaranteed. Nobody knows if tomorrow is guaranteed. I've been told that, by someone in the, by a physician, that, dude, I don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. You may. This may never happen again, but there's something there and you have to deal with it. You have to be aware of it. I wasn't aware of it.
So you had
Um,
this moment, or did you have a tangible moment to where, see, we all say we don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow, right? I mean, I hear that so much. I say it, but there's a difference between saying it and feeling it in your gut and
mhm.
living with it. So did you have a tangible moment to where you, all of a sudden it clicked, like, wow, like this is truth, and then you carried that on forward?
I didn't actually. I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the box and I'm going to take a look inside, and whatever comes out, comes out. I wasn't equipped to deal with it on my own. I thought, okay, I'm going to deal with it on my own. This is going to be fine. I'm a guy. It's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to fix things. I'm supposed to solve problems by myself.
So when you say
That
you opened up the box, what do you mean by like how did, in practice, what did you begin doing?
okay, I sat down with myself in silence and I said, all right, dude, you got this heart condition. You could probably die. What do I want? What should I do? What should I do? Okay, you could probably die. What should I do? Should I be the asshole the rest of my life and just not give a fuck? Should I, you know, should I go off? Should I off myself first? Should I take life into my own hands? My life, my fate into my own hands. Um, you go through these series of of stages that is really confusing. And so I ended up in a very deep, dark place, and I fell into a very severe depression because everything that I had tried, that I had taught, and all the tools that I was given to equip myself with life's problems and to handle life's problems weren't working. And I said, oh, wait a second, I'm supposed to deal with this situation, and I've got this family, and I'm not even doing what I love to do. I don't even know what I love to do anymore, and I don't even know who I am. And I've got this thing. I'm told that I need to live life to the fullest, and I don't know how to live. And honestly, I don't want to live right now, and because this is a crappy way to live. The cards that are dealt were unfair, and all of these things start to overwhelm me until I just couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I've got these two kids here, and they're going to, one day they're going to learn, and they're going to look back. They're going to say, what did dad do? Or why did dad do that? So I had to suck it up, and I told my wife, I said, I think I need to see somebody. I think I need to see somebody because there's nobody here around me that I can talk to about it. I didn't really have any more friends. I didn't want to, my parents knew, but it was difficult to talk to them. I'm their son. I don't think they want to be inundated with my fears of dying. I'm their son. That's the last thing a parent wants to do is talk to their kid about their fate, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
because it's not really for a child to be talking about death, like for children to die before parents, it's not a natural order of life, right? So of course it's going to be stress inducing.
mhm, it is. So I said, this. I've been told that I've got this possible timeline of life that is very short now, and I'm supposed to be living life to the fullest. I mean, isn't that what happens? People have a near-death experience and they have this awakening, and they just, oh man, I'm gonna live life now. They're nice to everybody. All of a sudden, they're George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life, and everybody loves each other. And this wasn't happening. I was empty inside. And
Because it's like how am I supposed to live? Like what does that even mean?
what is living? What is life? What is this? I know what I've been told to do. I know how I've been told to live. The choices have been made for me. I went to the instruction manual of life that I read, and I did it. Okay, I did everything, and I still feel the same. There's nothing happening. I'm empty right here. And I saw some counselors, and I just felt that they just were not getting the severity of my desperation. And that black dog kept getting bigger, and his growl was getting deeper, and his bite was getting was drawing more blood. And I did not want to live like that anymore. And said, well, if this is life, and I'm on this limited time frame, I don't need to do this. I don't want this. I'm just going to off myself. The people that commit suicide, what it is, it's people don't understand, and I understand that some of these people is that it's like being in a building, like that's on fire, and it's hot. It's hot, and they say, well, why do they, well, why do people jump from burning buildings? Because the feeling of jumping is justifiably better than the feeling of burning alive inside.
That's a
And
great analogy.
and it's what it was. I was burning alive inside, and I wanted to jump. I wanted to jump. I wanted to take it. And I couldn't communicate that to anybody. I'm a guy. You don't do that in this society. You don't communicate these things you don't show weakness. You suck it up, you deal with it, you muscle your way through, or you put it away, deal with it another day, you drink it to death, or whatever it is. You become a jerk, you become an asshole, you do other things, anything to avoid it. And that was not happening. I was doing it and I could not avoid it. There was an emptiness inside. There was a nothing, a void, a very dark hole that everything was being sucked into. And I had, I knew that that my time frame now was being shortened because now I'm getting these thoughts in my head that, okay, I'm going to do this myself. And I finally found the right doctor. He prescribed some medication for me, which was way too strong. Thankfully, I was able to get it down. Um, but he started asking me questions that I don't think anybody had ever asked me before. Do I love myself? What is it that I want? Why do I worry about what parents, wife, business associates, other people care about? Why do I worry about their opinions? Who do I think I am? What am I? Who am I? Who, and he opened up this rabbit hole for me. And I took on meditation. I started meditating, and I didn't know what I was doing at first. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and breathe. I'm like, this is boring, and I'd fall asleep. Like, don't think I got it down yet.
Well, yeah,
But
probably because of the exhaustion. I mean, I realize that when I pick up meditation again, I sometimes will fall asleep or get close to sleep simply because I haven't done it in a while and I'm not familiar with that state. So my body's exhausted. It just wants to sleep.
it just wants to sleep, right? Yeah. And, so I went down this rabbit hole, and I remember I just hit rock bottom. It's you wake up and there's this veil over your face, and you see nothing as it was anymore. Everything is just dark. Everything is just gray. The sunniest days have this metaphoric gray cloud that takes up every inch of your existence. There's a heaviness about life. There's not the summer breeze is not there anymore. Music isn't as loud. You don't want to dance. Songs have no meaning. You don't want to see TV. You can't enjoy anything. There's no reason to laugh anymore. You're so lost and confused because you don't know who you are. You don't know what you are, but you feel this urgency to be somebody, to do something, to live life, but you don't know what life is. How can I live it if I don't know what it is? And so I had to sit down and say, okay, I need to do something. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to jump. I'm not going to jump. But this fire inside this building, I've got to find a way to either to navigate it or to extinguish it. So I sat down and I reevaluated every single thing in my life, whether it was religious beliefs, relationships, um, political beliefs, you name it, everything. And I asked myself, why do I think the things that I think? Is it because I'm told to? Is it because it's truly what I think? Well, who am I? What am I? You know, and I would seek out mountains, literally mountains, because I read in stories that if you go to a mountaintop, you will find the secret of life. And so I sought them out. And
Like
the
you
answer,
physically sought out a mountain, like you would take trips
yeah,
to
yeah. If you go to my
hike it.
Instagram page,
Okay.
yeah, you go to my Instagram page, you see me. I'm sitting on a mountain, and I'm looking off into the horizon, and there's nothing or no one around because I needed to figure that out. I needed that silence. I needed my mind to shut down and to just allow whatever the mountains needed to tell me to tell me. And yeah, I got some things, but whether it was a Zen that I was seeking, um, I realized that the only Zen or the only things that you take up a mountain are the things you carry. I mean, the things that you'll find, the only Zen you'll have the top at the mountaintop is the Zen that you take with you. And so I knew that everything that I needed, everything that I needed to get me through this and to live life was always going to be inside of me. It was there, and that I had lied to myself, and that my ego was this creation of self belief or opinions or critiques or social conditioning and cultural conditioning that I had created within myself, and to say, this is what I am, this is who I am, this is how I define myself, this is the currency of my value. And it was all false. It was all false. It was all false. None of it was real. None of it was real. And I didn't want to be influenced by anything. And I wanted to get to a 0 point and start from there and then rebuild myself. Or not even rebuild myself, shed everything and be. Just be. Not have to be, but just be. Just exist. And from there, I knew that I was able to see clearly. And that leaves you in a very lonely place. What people don't tell you about these spiritual awakenings is that it's a shit show. It's an
Oh yeah.
absolute shit show because I had a cousin who was like a brother to me. He was the best man at my wedding. He was closer to me than I am to my own brothers. The guy was everything. He was my Yoda to my Luke Skywalker. He was helping me get through life. He would help me. He would mentor me. He would counsel me, everything. Right. And he was walking along with me. Maybe he couldn't answer everything, but he would be there for me. And I remember I get a phone call from my wife one night saying I needed to come home. And I came home and she told me that he had passed away. And I think, why is this like, this is unfair. Here I am.
Sorry about
I,
that.
no, hey, it happens. but, and I was angry because I said, okay, I shed everything. I did what I needed to do. I did what the book said, with the books on spiritual awakening and self improvement and all this other crap. I'm doing it. Why am I still losing here?
The
This doesn't
theme
make
that keeps
sense.
coming up is measuring our actions against expectations, right? What I
Mm,
do this all too often, and I keep hearing this theme come up in your story here of just reading something in a book or hearing another experience of like, I did X, Y, and Z. Why am I not where I should be? But then what does that even mean? What is should be?
that's right.
Who's
And
generating that space or that idea? Us, our ego.
all I did was exchange one checklist for another.
Yep.
And life is not a checklist. Life is not a step-by-step process. Life just happens. Is there a meaning to life? I don't know. If you equate life to music, and music is supposed to be the vibration of life, music isn't about the end. Music is about every individual note and the silence between. You're supposed to dance in a song. If the ending of a composition is the most important thing, and I'm paraphrasing Alan Watts here, songs would be 1 second long. But you've
Well,
got
it'd
song,
be a race to the finish.
it'd be a race to the finish. And so that really resonated when I heard that. And I remember I was riding my motorcycle one day and I was like flying. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to do 120, 130 on my Harley, on country roads and fly. And I remember flying, thinking, "Wow, I need to get to this next stop fast or whatever." And that echoed in my head, and I said, "Wait, why am I trying so hard to get there so fast? What am I trying to accomplish?" Why am I stressing myself out at work? Why am I trying to be the perfect father? Why am I trying to be the perfect husband? Why am I trying to be perfect? Why? I can't do that. If life is a song and life is something that happens around us, I choose how I'm going to react to this. I mean, I know it sounds cliche-ish, but I can dance. I can sit and listen to the song and enjoy every single individual note that I hear, or I can rush to the end. And only one of those is going to bring me some type of joy. And I said, you know what? This is my life. I'm in control of how I can react to things. I couldn't help what happened to me. I couldn't help what happened in my acting career. I couldn't help what happened with me medically. I couldn't help with some of these losses. Now, throughout the spiritual awakening process, the first few stages, I lost so many people. When I mean lost, they died. They just fucking died. I'm like, what the fuck? And important people. That's the part that nobody told me about. Is that you're going to lose a lot of shit. You're going to lose things that are your security blankets, are your safety nets. You are going to lose it all.
And
And
this
I
is not
did.
even like, for example, relationships that you're voluntarily ending. These are things getting ripped from you.
Ripped from you. And I didn't make sense of it. And I chose not to make sense of it after a while and to accept it. and to accept any pains, any losses, anything. I was going to have to accept, and I was going to have to embrace them, and I was going to have to go through them to get out of them. The only way out of pain is to go through pain, I read a lot of the Buddhist philosophy, and uh, suffering is resistance to pain. And when you can embrace that pain, you find peace. And I had to do that. And I had to live my life, that all of this crap was going to happen. And that if I didn't make a choice to live my life, others were going to make that choice for me again. And I wasn't going to spend the second half of my life living somebody else's life and trying to appease them.
So are
That
these
I,
little like my I'm trying to visualize the words that you're saying
Mhm,
in practical application. So
mhm,
were these little micro shifts to where you started analyzing every decision that you would make, you know, when we're given two roads, right? With every
mhm.
little decision, we can choose to think one way or choose to think another or choose to look at something or choose to turn a cheek. So how would you describe your shift in terms of like how you applied this to your life in like in a physical way?
Okay. Um, I would ask myself a question. Is this something that I felt compelled that I needed to do because it's what I was conditioned to think? Or is this in my heart something that I want to do? Sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to, but it's part of our life journey. It's part of life. But those questions there, I had to say, okay, this decision here, do I want to do this? Is this something that, even though it's going to be just like working out, like doing a deadlift, I want to do a deadlift because it's going to make me stronger. It sucks. It hurts, but I want to do it. I want to embrace that pain. Or am I being told to do a deadlift because I'm being told that I need it to be stronger because I'm going to be used to go do some other thing?
So it's really tapping in then to your truth in
Mhm.
every single decision, every single scenario, every single relationship that you have, every single word that comes out of your mouth. Is this my truth or is this conditioning?
Exactly.
And you literally asked yourself that question with everything?
With everything, all day, every day. That's
How long
how
how long did you? Because like, I mean, obviously, I think I'm not even gonna say obviously. I would think that after a while, you'd kinda get into more of a natural flow state after doing
you
it, but
do.
I imagine that in the beginning, it feels very mechanical because you have to keep asking yourself in situations it's something new. So,
Yeah.
how long would you say was your transitionary period from where it felt mechanical to then kind of naturally getting into more of a flow with life?
Probably a couple of years. And
Wow.
it's just now, probably last year, I think, 2018, it was really a pivotal year for me because I finally started to let go and trust my heart with decisions. I try not to intellectualize too much because I got caught in another trap. I started to overthink and intellectualize things now. And I'm like, wait a second, here I go again, you know,
I'm
and
familiar with that space, let me
yeah.
tell
So,
you.
and you start to realize that the decisions you make that you want is your heart is dictating that path. And you start to equate following your heart with these decisions. And it becomes subconscious. It becomes something that you're given a fork on the road and you look one direction and you start to overthink and intellectualize. You look at this one just feels right. And even if I make a mistake, that's fine. But it was my choice. I can fix it. It's going to be okay. And if I can't fix it, fuck it. Life goes on.
Oh, when
You
I
learn.
tap in, like I was saying earlier, when I tap into my heart truth, there's no choice.
Hmm.
So, like, for example, it's a silly scenario, but when my husband was like, "Let's jump out of a plane on our wedding day." When it came out of his mouth, I was just like, "You know what? I already knew I was doing it." I didn't even really I didn't want to because of the fear. Like that was the conditioning. The conditioning was like, "No, no, let's not do that." But in my gut was like, "That would be fucking awesome." Like, let's jump out of a plane. And from the moment he said that, and the feeling I felt in my gut, there was no going back. Even though all the fear was there and all the weird unknown, like what's going to happen, I could die, I could, all this stuff. It didn't matter because it was just my truth, and I can't explain it any better than that. I just felt it.
The experience overrides the risk, and that's life. We're all going
Yeah.
to end up in the same place. It's impermanent. No one is making it out of here alive. I mean, Fight Club, the movie Fight Club, if you're familiar with that, is that's what it's about. I mean, I think Tyler Durden in there says this is the Titanic, and everybody's just polishing the brass on this thing. But we're all going down, baby. It's going down, and that's the truth. It is. It is, and people are going to use you as their safety net if you're not conscious of it. They're going to tell you what to do to appease them and to make them feel comfortable. I think we've talked about this where, you have to live your life. Not everybody is going to agree with your decisions, but when you follow your heart, that is your truth. That is it right there. You can fuck up, that's fine. What is a mistake really but just a learning opportunity? What is so bad that you make a mistake? So fine, you jump out of a plane and you die. Okay, I get it. Okay, yes, I get it. But fuck, you made a choice to do something for an experience. How many people are not experiencing life right now? How many people are stuck on their phone looking down and not looking up and living to fucking live? And this is where my acting training came in, is where I would look at a scene and look at the bigger idea. What is the writer saying here? What does this character want? What are they communicating? That's how I want to live. How am I going to live? What do I want to do? I already tried caring about what everybody thought about. I tried that already. I tried caring about everybody's opinions. And guess what? They gave them to me and I believed them. But it's bullshit. It's
Yeah.
bullshit. I have a ring that's got FTW. And in the biker community, FTW, you see that everywhere. Fuck the world. They think, oh, that person's got an attitude. Fuck the world. It's not a blanket statement. You become an asshole if that's the case. It is fuck the conditioning that of your world. It is everybody has their own world to say fuck you to. Fuck
I
you to
like
the
that.
corporate world. Some people have. You have to. And all my close friends, actually, 2 Christmases ago, I gave them rings. FTW. Fuck the world. To remind them, walk your path, not the path that is being paved for you. That paved path may look nice, it may be cushy, and you may have some awesome swag that you're going to gather along the way. But just what you're given can be taken away also. Walk your path, forge it, do it, live it. You want to buy a motorcycle? Fuck it, go buy a motorcycle. You want to try a food you never had? Go do it. I know it sounds cliches, but there's truth to that. I stopped skateboarding. I was in my late teens. I just bought myself a longboard over the summer again. And I jumped on, and it's been like I never left because it would bring joy to my heart. I was told when I was younger, oh, you need to let those toys go. You need to grow up and do something else. Get a car, whatever, be a normal person. What the fuck is normal? If I'm not following my heart, what's normal? I've seen death. I've been there, and I realize that the only reason that death exists is to give life a meaning. There's a saying, momentum mori. Remember death. And if you can remember death, then it may come, and death is always here. We live in a world, universal laws of polar of opposites. Where there's life, there's going to be death. There's up, there's going to be down. Life doesn't exist unless there is a death. Up doesn't exist unless there is a down. Black doesn't exist unless there is a white. So it is a parallel existence. People try to avoid that, and then you only live a half life. Oh, death, I can't think about it. Well, you have to think about it and get macabre about it, but you have to accept it.
Yeah, because then you're not getting you're only getting a portion. You're not getting the
You're
full
only
experience, because then if you choose to not go to the one side, then you're only going to stop in the middle.
you're
And
only
I'm guilty of that. I struggle with accepting death. I mean, fainting was the closest thing that I experienced to a loss of consciousness. sudden and unexpected loss of consciousness, not only like a loss of consciousness, like say going into surgery where it's going to happen, but sudden and unexpected. And man, that shit rattled me up so much, and I'm still undoing my or uncovering my awareness around what the hell it did to me, because that was a that was a slap in the face reminder of my mortality and my fragility. And it's it's not a pleasant space to be when you're not familiar with it.
It's not a pleasant. You're right. You are so right about that. It's uncomfortable, but you have to walk in that direction. Life is not going to be comfortable. A comfortable existence is a non-existence, and experience is all the reason we create our own comforts. We have our perfect space on the couch, perfect side of the bed. We know how we like our clothes to fit because it keeps us from having problems, keeps us from discomfort is problematic for us. We have to give our attention to things when we're uncomfortable. But life is uncomfortable, and you have to give your attention to life, but with your heart. You've got to open up your heart, let that light shine through your light, and it's going to be too much for a lot of people. A lot of
Well, I mean,
male
society
friend,
conditions us to be comfortable, and
yeah, to be comfortable.
for everything to be convenient, for everything to be fast. I mean, look at even the Western medical system. It's, pills, 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 pills. You have a little twinge, here's a pill. You have the slightest, imbalance, here's a pill. Just fix it. Not even fix it. Let's just push it away. Let's mask it. Instead of figuring out what's really underneath. And as I've been sitting here listening to you, as you're opening up your heart space more in a spiritual way, I'm wondering, I mean, I can't help but wonder, are you actually physiologically healing your heart? I
I
mean, because
haven't had an
that very
incident.
well could because I
Um,
totally believe in the mind, having so much power over the body in regards to that. I mean, you hear even ayahuasca experiences, psilocybin mushrooms, people going to Peru and then coming back without cancer.
I this so I shrooms, psilocybin helped me there. That's where it helped me on. It helped me accept this. I I went in with an intent, very much like you just described right now, of healing. And I knew it was going to be scary, and I knew that I had to confront this darkness there, and that I was not going to be free until I did that. But I knew I had nothing to lose anymore. And so I prepared myself for it. I did the necessary steps in order to do that, and I had my intent, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen, and I was going to accept it. There's no such thing as a bad trip because you can learn from it all. Sometimes we're not prepared to confront the things, but if you go in there with an open mind and allow things just to happen, you will learn a lot and you will heal so much.
I
And I
remember you
realized that,
told me right after your trip, you're like, if I did not let go, I could see how it would have went down a darker path.
yep, yeah, yeah. So what I did is I talked to my wife about it. She's completely for it. She's cool. And I said, okay, I'm going to confront this. I know that there's something there that it's a heaviness that has not let me to let go completely in life and to be free from my heart. So it was an anchor there that I had to sever. So I took my dosage and I
How
put on
much did you
these.
take?
It was 4 grams. 4 grams. Yeah, it was a lot.
I mean, that's
The
a hefty dose.
heroic dose is 5. Heroic dose is 5, and I was ready to go in there. Let's clean this baby out.
Were you alone or did you do it with people?
I was alone. I was alone doing it, but I had people around me to take care of me and to make sure that I had everything I needed. I mean, I had my checklist. We did the research, everything, and I was listening to Icaros, these South American tribal songs, chants that a lot of these shamans do during an ayahuasca ceremony, and there are these songs. They guide you and they carry you into where you need to go. And I remember putting my headphones on and I was laying in bed and I had taken my dosage and I was just kind of waiting for the fun to begin. And I felt it. I felt something coming on and I could feel this shaman in my ear started to penetrate the fiber of my existence. And I ended up on this, I don't know, this ethereal type of roller coaster. I felt like I was strapped into something. And I almost started to see the fabric of what everything is created, made of, appear before me. And some other like other people that have experienced psychedelics have talked about the drop. You go into this drop, and I don't remember if you said you'd experienced that too, but it's this point of no return that you're either gonna let go and allow whatever happens to happen, or if you resist it, it's gonna suck, and
Yeah,
there's no
I
way.
didn't let go.
Yeah, you didn't let go. Okay,
I
all
didn't
right.
let go,
So,
so it
oh
sucked at the
man,
peak of it. Yes, at that part of the
God,
experience. Oh my goodness. I did 100 micrograms of LSD, and I the peak of the experience when I was resisting, I can't explain. I felt like I had bugs in my body, like just wanting me to
ooh,
just let go, like relax, like sit back, but I would not allow myself to, and that discomfort and that panic and feeling like you're about to die, and oh, it was just it wasn't good.
you have to let yourself die. You have to confront it, and that's where I was at. And I said, look, I've confronted death already. Whatever. Let's just go. Let's just do it, man. Let's just fucking go. And it's like one of those water slides that just goes straight down. That's exactly what it felt like for me.
You almost have to tell yourself, "Okay, I guess I'm dying right now," right? I
Yeah,
guess I'm gonna
yeah.
die in this moment, like, you have to really believe that.
You have to believe it because I had to let go of this, and that was just my ego. That was my ego trying to hold on, trying to survive, trying to hold on to existence and relevance, trying to control. And you can't. You can't. I could not transition into a different level of consciousness by holding on to the consciousness that I had now. I
So
had
it's
to let
almost like
go.
falling asleep, right? You know how we have to let go of I mean, sleep is familiar to us, so I feel like it's much easier than a psychedelic experience to,
Mhm.
wrap our minds around, but very similar to almost allowing yourself to go to sleep, but the challenge I feel like with the psychedelic experience is because your body is so revved up with this new compound and this experience and all of these thoughts that it's really hard to let go when you're experiencing all of that.
Oh yeah, your neurons are firing off, and all of a sudden your senses are they are so engaged and so sensitive, and everything is multiplied by an infinite number of times, and you're trying your mind is trying to make sense of it, but the thing is that your mind cannot. It's beyond our cerebral understanding. This cannot understand that. How can you explain the unexplainable? You can't. You cannot intellectualize it. It can't even be written about. It can only be experienced, right? So I dropped in. I'm like, go, baby, go. Let's do it. Let's drop. And it was scary as fuck for about 2 seconds. And then I was there.
Oh, that's quick.
Yeah, exactly. About 2 seconds.
So you
I said,
had to
wait,
just like, huh, like
you
literally
got to
like
let
trust fall.
trust fall. You have to trust fall. And I did that. And I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, wow. I'm like, wait a second. This is interesting. And there was a fear inside of me that I could feel kind of moving around. And I said, I'm going to chase it. I'm going to chase it out. Something inside of me said, don't chase it out. Let it come to you. Embrace it. So I said, okay. So I went outside. I went to my backyard and I sat in a chair and I said, I'm here. Whatever you need, I'm here. And I love you. Whatever this fear is, I love you. And I remember feeling myself as a kid next to me, like little boy Anthony was next to me, and he was really scared. And I held his hand and I said, "It's going to be okay, man. I'm here and I'm stronger now and I'm bigger and I'm smarter and I won't let anything happen to you because you have an awesome life. You're going to have an amazing life. And I'm sorry that whatever happened in this world to make you feel unloved happened, but you're an amazing soul. And you're going to do some great things in this world that's going to bring a lot of light to people that don't have light. But we have to do this, and you won't be alone. We have adult you with you now. We're going to do this together, and I'm scared too." And I allowed this wave of darkness to overwhelm me. And I said, "Okay, let's dance. Let's do it." And it's every traumatic experience, every rejection, every moment that I had felt alone was combined into one monster. And I allowed it to go through me. And I felt it all again. And there was no acting inside of me that I could pull myself out of it anymore. But I held on to that little boy. And I said, "We're going to ride this out, buddy. We have to ride it out." And inside I was scared shitless, but I had to embrace that fear. And then I asked it, "What are you?" And it told me that it was a fear of not being loved and never being told that I was accepted for being who I was and loved as I was completely, and all my quirks and everything. And that fear turned into anger. That anger had got that little boy and locked him into a box. And the only way to let him out was to embrace this fear, to go through this hard process of knowing that all that was a lie. And I did. And it still happens, There's still situations and moments where that little boy is there like, "Whoa, we're scared." I said, "No, it's a lie." Because that dark fear, that monster, floated away like dust in the wind once I embraced it. But I had to feel every bit of it with every molecule in my body. I had to allow it to happen. I couldn't resist it anymore, which is what I had been doing. And, the universe looks out for us. So when that happened, my kids walked out and they sat in front of me. And I saw how beautiful they were. And I saw parts of them that I had never seen before. They became these divine entities that I had failed to see because I was so blinded with fear that they would not accept me as their father, or that one day they would look back and see all of my failures and shortcomings. And so that I was hiding parts of myself from them. And that little boy was sitting with them. And I saw him just disappear into them. And I couldn't believe that I was going to be so embraced with love that I was finally going to allow myself to love myself, and that I couldn't control anything that ever happened in my life. I couldn't control circumstances. I couldn't control the cards. I couldn't control any of that. But what I could do was love myself, and I could love others, and I could let go and be, and not concern myself with the matters of consequence or with the opinions of others. And that this life was not going to be permanent. It was an infinite, not in this existence. And that I could finally be free. I could finally be free to see the beauty in life that I was so scared of disappointing, that I didn't think I was worthy of, that I didn't think I was good enough for. And for the rest of that afternoon, I sat in my backyard and I remember seeing butterflies and ladybugs. And I could think of a butterfly and a butterfly would come to me. I could think of a ladybug and a ladybug would come to me. And I felt like I was a part of everything. My consciousness had tapped into the universal consciousness that connects us all. And I was part of that tree, and I felt the tree communicate, and I felt the bliss of existence. I looked up in the sky at the clouds, and it's almost like I could see the very fabric of what everything is created of. The the void and the non-void, the everything. I saw it all. I felt it. It was an experience that I cannot describe. And there was a song about life that was in my heart. It was a chant. It was a cry. It was as loud singing. I understood why the birds sing. I understood why the grass was so soft. I understood why everything was. That nothing necessarily had a purpose, but just to enjoy its existence as it was and to love itself. That the tree, its very job was to be the best tree it could. And whoever chose to seek its branches as shelter from the sun, it had no control over, but that it had to embrace itself and to love itself. And if that tree could do that, so could I. And a lot of these lies and these walls and these places that I had put away in the shadows in this warehouse of infinite melancholy, I tore down. And I realized that I don't have to do or be anything. I already am. I've always been something. I've always been somebody. And then I had this sense of mourning that happened for everyone around me, for the whole world, for everybody that couldn't experience this. For the people that I love that believed that they had to be these certain images, or these men that could not talk about their mental health, or couldn't talk about their sadness or shortcomings or disappointments, and they had to hold up this stature of strength. I just wanted to grab all of them and say, it's bullshit, man. I fucking love you just as you are. That love is something that is infinite. That to love someone, you love not only who they are now, but you love who they've always been and who they always will be, because that is them. We're not just a singular body in front of others to love. We are a culmination of events that goes back to the beginning of time. And that is what you love. And you had to let go of how people expected to be loved, to love them freely. And that was a true love. And this is all happening in a matter of minutes inside of me. And I wanted to love everybody and everything for what it is. don't don't bring to me the masks of shame that you hide, behind. Don't bring these gilded lives that you present to the world. I want to just love and embrace you, everyone, everything. Because in loving that, I love myself. There is no difference between me or you or anybody else. And I felt a sense of freedom. And that little boy, I mean, that he's healing, not completely. He's there. It's a process, but
Wow, I like fell into that experience as you were just speaking through it. I feel like as much as I could be on the other end of this, I just feel like I was there with you experiencing this, going through this, and
you were.
it sounds like there are 2 parts of you that needed to merge.
Yeah. There was a part of me that loved unconditionally, a part of me that enjoyed life. There was a part of me that was born already somebody, as we all are. And there's a part of me that was ashamed because he was told that was wrong.
And you've
And
had to learn that that happened to you, but that is not truth.
that's happened to me, but it's not me.
It's not you.
Yeah. And
Wow. That makes me, I mean, I that gives me some motivation. I've been very drawn to a psilocybin mushroom experience. I've been thinking about it lately. I don't know that I'm quite ready for it, but I've been thinking about it as a next step for me in my journey, and this story really motivates me to give it some more serious thought because there's there's so much healing that's done so rapidly when I hear about these experiences. Even with the LSD, I had that experience, and it's powerful. And I hate we're getting into such good territory, and I hate to cut it off, but I have to head out soon. We've been at this for almost 3 hours, but I think it's that's a good note that we kind of like the story that you just spoke on. I mean, I'm going to need to take a little bit to process that myself. That was very powerful.
it is it I think it takes doing something like that to know that it's okay as you're supposed to be when you're told as a guy, suck it up, buttercup. That's the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to do that. Fine, yeah. I mean, I'm a dude. Can't change that. I'm a guy. Yeah, I have a certain biology about me that makes me stronger here and this and that. Do I identify myself with that? No, I don't have to identify myself with that. I just already am. A dog doesn't have to identify himself as a dog. He already is.
Mhm.
It's what we choose to be, and we're all human. We're all here, and we're all going to experience this. And unless you know how to deal with it and allow yourself to deal with it, you're going to have some issues. You're going to end up here. And there's so many guys out there that I just want to say, man, look, you know, I'm a dude. I'm a guy from Texas. I boxed. I shoot guns. I ride a Harley. I have tattoos. I am it. Like that checklist of masculinity, it's there. But if you believe that's what you identify yourself with as a man, you're going to lose a whole lot of life in the process. You're not going to be able to experience it in its full totality. And it's a beautiful thing. You've got to embrace the pain. You've got to embrace the shame. You've got to get and go through it. You've got to let the tears run. There's this boxer, Tyson Fury, just boxed, and he went through deep depression, and it took him a couple of years, but this was a comeback fight for him, and he talked about this. It's like, I'm a 6'7" boxer. Come and tell me I'm wrong for feeling like this. And I feel like that sometimes, you know. there is, you can have people that say, well, Anthony, he just doesn't have a handle on things. And no, I've had a handle on things, let me tell you, and I wasn't fucking happy. No, I'm not going to be happy every day. I'm not going to live in joy all the time. That's fine. I accept it. But I'm also going to accept everything else and know that it's a part of this life experience. And I will never be able to fully experience the beauty that this existence and this consciousness has to offer us until that happens. I can't hide behind masculinity. I can't hide behind machismo. I cannot hide behind social media. It's all bullshit. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be truthful. You don't like it, you don't like it. I think I've been accused of being needy because I tried to cultivate my friendships and I check on people because I care. And it's like, wow, that's fucked up. You think that this is being needy? Holy fuck, that is fucked up. That is sad. That's a sad indictment on our life when you have people that genuinely care about your well-being and you call them needy. Um, I'll share one more thing with you, and I don't know if I should or not, but I just found out that my older brother has cancer. Him and I didn't always have the best relationship. And when he told me, all I could think was that I love him. And no matter what, I love him. And that is the most important thing. My ego doesn't matter. Any history him and I have had does not matter. And he needs me. He's experiencing something that's painful. And all I want to do is love him freely. I've told my wife before, I have to let you go in the way that you want for me to love you so that I can love you the way my heart wants to love you. And that is a free love, and that is more love than you can ever imagine.
Do you feel like with the situation with your brother that you would have handled it in a different way, say it was a year ago or two ago? Would you have been maybe angry, upset, or
Angry, upset, and probably wouldn't have wanted to confront the issue. Probably would have just whatever. Tell him, hey, suck it up, buddy. You're gonna be fine. Don't be crying like a bitch or whatever. Even though he's my older brother, because it's what I thought it's what you're supposed to do.
yeah, that conditioning? Wow. Well, we talked about a lot. I I appreciate you sharing everything that you shared with me and all the listeners and everybody that tuned in, and you've been through a lot, but I feel like your story provides a tremendous amount of hope for people that are either approaching that dark place because you can kind of feel it coming on,
Mhm.
or that are balls deep in the dark place already, or even coming out of it in the transitionary period, because that's not an easy period too. I feel like I'm kind of in that weird transitionary period where, I mean, you never know when more darkness can hit, right? So I'm always hesitant to be like, I'm out of my dark place, I'm healing, because you just never know. But the initial dark place that I experienced for a couple years, in regards to that, I'm in that transitionary period, and hearing your story really helps me out. So I thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Allow me to say this here. I'm really proud of you. I maybe only know you in a virtual world, but the fact that your actions have set up a platform for this, and you have reached out, that you exist as you do in this moment, embracing this, embracing myself and others that are here with you, that you've put yourself out there. You are miles ahead of most people. Love yourself, embrace that thing that brought you here to this moment. I know you've worked in corporate America, you've worked in the city, but where you are right now, there's a joy about it. Though you have a heaviness in your soul from the story, embrace what took you here. Embrace this moment in who you are. I embrace you as you are now. Embrace
Very,
yourself.
that's very that touches me, because what just came up when you said that for me was absolutely nothing. but in a good way.
Good.
I I just I don't feel anything, and that, not to say that I don't feel anything, but it's that thoughtless state of pausing and just
Allowing.
allowing, and the stresses of my day ahead and the stresses of my past behind, it's they don't matter in this
They don't
moment.
exist. They don't exist. The only thing that matters is this very moment right now. Past doesn't exist. When we experienced it, it was in a present moment. And even now, when we think about the past, it's only in memory, which is maybe 30% true. Our future is just a concept, it's an idea.
Yeah, wow. Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
No, thank you.
It's a journey. I'm learning. There's a lot to learn. The more that I feel like I learn, the more I feel like I understand that I don't know anything.
Nope.
um,
Don't learn here, learn here.
yeah,
Learn
that's
here.
powerful, is tapping
Can
into that
pick this
heart
up.
space and not getting wrapped up in the should I not, should I do this, should I not, planners, to-do lists, just all that bullshit that clouds and clogs us is it's
You're
just not important.
It's not. I mean, don't give it's not as consequential as you think it is. Yeah, sure, we have jobs, we have plans, we've got things we do need to do. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. But don't allow it to dictate you, your peace, your value, because it's not worth it. The most, if you want to get up right now and go jump on a skateboard, if you want to go eat ice cream, that is living life right there. It is
Powerful words,
that.
man. I think, like, boom, like mic drop. Actually, I can't really drop this mic, but
Here, mic
yeah,
drop. Boom.
metaphorical mic drop. But well, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop the live broadcast, but you and I can still keep talking because it just stops the live video from going. So this is technically the end of the episode. So once again, thank you, Anthony. But you and I will keep talking in just a sec.
Cool.
Any parting words? Any call to action? Parting words? I mean, you've said a lot of meaningful stuff, so I don't know that you necessarily need to add anything to what you've already said, but
Yeah, I mean, words are always going to fall short. So just fucking live. Just fucking live.
fucking
Live your
live. I
fucking
love
life,
it.
man.
Fucking live.
Fucking
We're gonna
live.
go with that because I don't think that there's any better way to say it than that.
Fucking live.